Once upon, and once again, the young pigs each grew old. The pedestal of childhood dreams now chewed and spit out cold. The moonless night echoes still, like string tied in a knot. A history they couldn't know, each learned and then forgot. What little cost to play the game, the stone path to their home, and yet with open arms they came, with whittled, brittle bones. Record skipping, spinning still, for each they would have died. And yet the devil makes his bed, a truth in which they've lied. A peppered petrol motorcade arrives, and yet too soon they fade, the cramping legs of horses made to win before to rest they're laid. And what when salt and earth decayed, a handshake deal, the partial paid, of whom shall you be most afraid? The night, the shadow, or the shade? Ackerman was wrong. He didn't stop it all those years ago, not entirely. And we're the only ones that can stop it. Help me stop this thing once and for all. Matt, listen to the sound of my voice. I want you to describe what you see. Listen to your heartbeat. Feel the rhythm of it in your ears. What do you see? Matt, speak up. I can't hear you. What do you see?
I see the trail we take to the forest, edging around the school. Used to ride our bikes there. And I see the edge of the forest, but that's where I am. I can't go in.
At the edge of the forest.
The edge of the forest. I know it's only a few yards in, and we'll take the log across the river, but I can't.
Is there a force stopping you? Is there a person in front of you? Do you see anything?
No, it's too much. Like I died there.
Matt, I want you to tell me about that night on the riverbank. Tell me what you remembered.
Like, what? I don't even know how this is going to help.
It's important.
I've been through this so many times, and no one...
Matt, and every time we get to this point, you turn away. We need to talk about
it. I mean, to be honest, I don't even know what's real and what isn't real. I have Tam's words. Tam telling us that George and I were face down in the river, and there's a part of me that I remember being cold. I remember being so cold. And she talks about the man.
What did the man look like?
Said he was in so many years ago. He said he was in a gray suit, and she just kept talking about his teeth and how many teeth he had, and that she gave herself to save us. And all I remember really about that night, the one memory that sticks with me, is Luke. We were there, going there as fast as we could to stop Luke from jumping. And when we got there, he was crying because he jumped and he lived through it. And I don't even know what to think of that now.
Thank you. I know that was tough. And this is how we build that trust. This is how we make that connection, Matt. I know.
I can't even.
Listen,
Oh,
this isn't meant to be easy, Matt. This is how we form our bond, and this is how we work towards fixing what's been broken, okay? And you are not broken.
How can I not be? I can't keep my job straight. I've been suspended from the force. Can't keep a decent relationship. I haven't had a girlfriend, more than a couple nights. I can't trust anyone.
You can trust me. Matt, you can trust me. Matt, you're sitting in a high back chair in your psychiatrist's office in Chicago, Illinois, where you've lived and worked as a police officer for the past 10 years. Thunder softly rolls outside the window of the office, water peppering the glass. Dr. Ethan Kane sits across from you and slides a box of tissues across the table towards you. Yeah. Matt, listen, we've taken great strides today, working together. This is what it's about. I understand to you it seems like you're rehashing old memories time and time again, but this is the first time you've been past that barrier and you've talked about what's on the riverbank. I don't think you realize how big of a breakthrough that is.
Yeah. Whatever.
Matt, I'm proud of you. I am.
Thanks.
And as cliche and as terrible as it is for me to say, that is our time. But I'm excited to see you next week. Okay?
Thanks, Doc.
Keep doing those tests. And he stands up and he shakes your hand. Those breathing while you're in bed at night, okay? And if you get overwhelmed, you can always call me. You have my number. And he turns around and he grabs from a stack of business cards next to the couch he was sitting on. I know you have it, but here. And he hands you it again. Anytime, Matt, anytime you need me, you can call me. Okay?
Yeah.
As you leave his office, you wipe a tear from your eye and turn your phone back on. The receptionist smiles at you. Good day, Mr. Jacobs. Would you like to settle your bill today or next week? And you're about to answer her when you see the text message loading on your phone. It says, Matt, it's George. Call me as soon as you get this. It's about Luke. Tamara, you're in your happy place. Where is that?
There's a covered porch in the back of my property. Being that I work in real estate now, I found the best place for me, and it has nature, it has open sky, and I can see the stars at night. And I sit there sipping tea.
Okay. And as you slowly drift in your mind, you can see yourself on a different plane. You see yourself surrounded by all the things that you love and cherish most. And in your meditative state, you can feel yourself surrounded by something. What is it?
A warmth and a knowledge that, a feeling of love that comes from my daughter Astrid, which is unusual. In my mind, she's still a little girl, and she's there with my grandchildren that are her own now, and all the children together with me. I feel the warmth of love.
And as you feel that warmth, it almost comforts you. You can feel it on your skin, even though you're losing focus, becoming unaware of where you are, and you see your family stretched out, walking towards you, coming up the bank of a hill. And as Astrid walks past a small plant, your eyes fixate on it, and it turns black. And slowly, behind her, all the while, she continues walking towards you, your grandchildren holding her hands. She swings them playfully as they walk towards you. The black root behind her begins growing into a tree, growing out of the ground, and along with it black tendrils that quickly become covering the hill.
I see it, and I try to move to get closer to her and call to my grandchildren and to Astrid to ask, come, hurry.
You speak to them and you reach a hand out as you begin taking steps towards them. But the black tendrils whip across the hill, covering the green grass almost completely, like ink staining a white page. They begin consuming your grandchildren, the legs of your daughter. They wrap around them, climbing her quickly, fast, before you can even reach her. They've consumed her entirely. Her face consumed by black, thin vines as it gets slowly pulled away from you. You pick up pace, continually moving towards trying to stop, but they drag her off into what you see the black root has become, a massive mangled tree. It drags her into the tree and envelops her. And your eyes shoot open. The fading Oregon light paints your bedroom in a hazy blue. Your meditation felt unfulfilled, with the memory of George's call last night telling you about Luke still in your mind. You feel tainted in a way. You've lived in Portland for almost 30 years, and yet it's never felt like home the way Harper's Hill did. You stand up, you head to your dresser. You reach on top and pull down an ornate wooden box, tucking it under your arm. You head into the kitchen to start your evening routine. What is it?
Well, after dinner, I like to make sure that I have a nice glass of wine. So I pour myself a glass of wine, and I reach into my cabinet, and there's a jar, and it's filled with peanut M&Ms. And I like to enjoy a handful before bed. So I grab a handful, and I grab my glass of wine, and I head towards my room to get ready.
And you do. You put your glass of wine next to your bed, and you try to shake off the image of the black tendrils from your meditation. You climb into your bed, pull back the covers as the stars begin creeping out from behind the clouds in your window outside your bedroom. And you set the box in front of you. You grab the wine and take a long sip before you open the box. What's inside?
Box contains some memories that I haven't looked in here for a while, but a bit of string, some things from my childhood, a badge that I actually made myself, and a bag of marbles that I've kept with me all these years.
You pick up the bag of marbles, and you remember the last time you played with them actively. And as the memory of Luke and his passing once again invades your mind, you feel the dripping of tears from your cheek fall onto the bag. You turn onto your side and watch the stars the same way you do every night, wishing them good night. George, your dreams the night you found out about Luke's death were more like nightmares. What were they of?
It's all a blur. I see Luke, an image of him sitting on top of the old clubhouse, about to jump. And just as I feel myself shouting out to him, I see myself on a hill looking at the tree. And the images in my mind are floating around, jumping into one another. But then it settles on me standing in a hallway, a long, dark corridor at night. And I can see the lining lockers all along both walls. And I can hear someone shouting, very, very faintly at first. Shouting, George, Georgie! George! It's an old, rattled voice, and I recognize it immediately as my father's. And I shout out his name, and I begin running down the hallway in the direction I think it is.
And as you run, the hallway continues. It stretches almost forevermore. The lockers on either side of you slowly become closing in. And that's when you realize, looking down, that the hands holding the mop you hold are not your own. They're older, maybe by 10 years at least. They feel thicker, more calloused, more worn out hands than you have.
And I spin around to see if I can look into a reflection.
And as you
mirror.
do, you see the reflection. Your father's eyes stare back at you. Your gasps, your sort of subtleties, all his own.
And I can still hear someone shouting down the hall. And I look back at the reflection.
And you're maybe 13, young, innocent, how you always pictured yourself when you were in Harper's Hill.
And I continue to run. I pivot right and go down the hall. And it twists and winds. And I can hear laughter at the same time. And when I feel like I'm getting close to the voice, it stops completely. And I hear a ding. Sounds like a pebble hitting the ground, maybe. But not a pebble, because it bounces again. And it has a rhythmic sound to it.
And from the area you're standing, you see the small blue marble bounce waist high, then knee high, then just the height of your foot as it rolls and taps softly against your foot. And as you bend down to scoop it up, holding the marble in your hand, you look up to a toothy grin, a creature with black eyes and dripping wet skin stares at you inches from your face. Boom. It says. You open your eyes, George, your head pounding. The half-empty bottle of whiskey sits next to you. The afternoon sky of western Pennsylvania shines brightly through the small windows of the basement apartment you rent. You groggily pick up your phone and remember your conversations with both Tam and Matt last night. You made plans to speak with them back in Harper's Hill tomorrow. The printed plane ticket sits on the printer next to you.
And I grab the tickets after putting my bottle down, fold them up, and begin walking around the house, trying to make order of everything just a little bit before I leave.
Yeah. And you live a quiet, simple life, but you also, you can be messy sometimes. So you hastily pack your bags, and as you do, you pause, your bag sitting on the end of your bed, and you sort of, knowing you're alone, you look around your apartment, and then you bend down, stretching your hand under the bed, gripping the cold metal of your pistol.
I pull it up, and it feels strange holding it under these circumstances. I'm usually just use it at the gun range, but going back to Harper's Hill, I think of everything that I went through, that me, Tim, and Maddie all went through. And without a second thought, I stick it into my back, the back of my belt.
You grab your
begin
bag.
Packing.
Yeah, you grab your bag, pretty much completely packed at this point, and you head to the door. But stop, with your hand over the knob. Slowly, you turn around and head back to your desk. Frantically, you begin searching through the drawers, pushing papers aside, and As you reach to the back of the drawer, your fingertips fall upon a familiar object.
And I chuckle as my fingers grasp the marble. And I shake my head, thinking, well, that maybe the dream was telling me something, but I don't entertain the thought very long.
You stand up, slip the marble into your pocket, and head to the airport. Marie, with a loud clunk, your shower turns on. The sputtering stream coughs to life as you reach a hand out. The warming water wraps against your palm as it has 1,000 times. A dull October fog has settled in around your apartment building in downtown Arkham, and as you step into the shower, you feel the warm water wrap itself around you like a familiar friend. Absent-mindedly, you run your fingers down your arm, your fingertips touching the long raised scar, a wound decades old, and for a moment, your mind drifts back to that day.
I remember being in one of my friend's backyards and hearing the crunch of leaves underneath my feet. We're all playing soccer. It's late afternoon. I remember the ball going over the fence and being the closest one to it. And I run and I yell, "I'll get it." And I reach up, and it's not that high. It's just over my head. So I jump and I manage to get a hand over the fence. And I remember the smell of those leaves, like a rot. And I remember seeing the ball on the other side of the fence. It looked so close, and losing my balance and ending up landing on my arm in such a way that it breaks. It's like a sickening sound first. It almost doesn't feel real. And then pain so bad. I'm screaming and crying, and people are laughing at me. Because I'm on the other side of the fence, maybe they don't know that I'm in pain, but the sound of it echoes. And I remember hearing a voice. "She found the cabbage patch. Cabbage patch." And I'm just standing in the shower holding my arm.
And as you do hold your arm, you realize, for the first time in however many years, while you're not actively crying, you can feel your eyes wet with tears, and you shake your head as the water droplets pepper the curtain and you turn off the shower. You enter the kitchen of your small one-bedroom apartment, the cigarette that sits between your fingertips, leaving a thin trail of smoke behind you as you do. You toss the morning paper collected from your front stoop onto the table with the same apathy you've done every other day, and you start your routine. What's your routine?
Well, first I stub out that cigarette and light a new one, washing my hands very thoroughly in between, even though I just got out of the shower, applying the same hand moisturizer as I always do. Then I turn to my coffee maker. I already have the coffee measured out from the night before, and I turn it on. Then I go to the fridge. I take out 2 eggs, and I put some water on to boil. While the coffee is percolating and while the water is starting to boil, I lean my tailbone against my kitchen counter and I start leafing through the paper. I'm looking for something.
And as you do, you take a long, slow drag from your cigarette, the small stems of smoke crawling towards the ceiling. Actively, your eyes search the paper, and then they stop on a heading, a small article, easy to miss. The title says, "Harper's Hill resident Luke Lawrence found murdered." The color drains from your face.
I know that name. I take a deep breath, scan the last couple of pages, see if there's any more details. And when there's not, I turn the water off from boiling on the stove, and I pick up my cell phone. And I dial my boss's number. I know it very well. He's the only person that I call when I need a favor, the only person I can count on. And I let it ring for a minute.
And he answers.
V, hey, it's Marie. Listen, remember how you said that I need to take some time off? If you don't mind, I think Jeremy can take care of my shit for this week. Just like a couple of days. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. All right, yeah, I'll be in touch. And she hangs up. Her hand is shaking.
You, I should say, hang up the phone, pack your bags, and head into your car to drive to Harper's Hill. The first time you'll be back home in 20 years. Marie, you turn off the police scanner that you have in your motel room at the Red Sparrow Motel in Harper's Hill. Lighting a cigarette as the door behind you slams and you enter the parking lot. You take a deep drag, the crisp autumn air biting at your fingertips as you do. Behind your 97 Thunderbird in the parking lot, the dry leaves stir softly, caught in a small cyclone, and for a moment you feel relaxed. From the corner of your eye, you see the small door leading to the front desk man, the man you told you'd come back to pay him after dropping your bags in the room last night.
I pat my pockets down. I forgot to pick up cash at the ATM, so unfortunately, I'm gonna have to be stealthy about this.
You take a quick look, and you do see across the street there is a small gas station. Bob's Burners, whatever that means, the gas station.
They probably got something. So look both ways and stride across the street.
You skip across the street. Again, the whole area of Harper's Hill feels almost nostalgic, like one of those movies where Halloween is all the time. You almost can picture kids walking around the streets in costumes, even though tomorrow's Halloween. It's only October 30th. You walk towards the gas station door and you open it with a chime, and in the corner you see an ATM machine.
Wonderful. So I go through my bags and I put my PIN number in. I try to remember how much the clerk told me the room is going to cost, and I take out, I don't know, $300.
Perfect. Give me a credit rating.
I certainly will.
It's like the only time it's gonna ever apply, so why wouldn't I use it? So credit rating, and your credit rating is 40. So what'd you roll?
That's interesting.
You rolled, I guess we'll call that 59, because those were the first two sort of numbers that came together.
Yeah, sure.
So 59, so 40. So you go to put in 300, and unfortunately it just says that you don't have enough.
Dang. Okay. I'm gonna try 200.
So you sit at the machine for a few minutes, and eventually you withdraw $88. And
That should be about enough.
you take the $88 and fold it into your pocket and exit back across the street. And as you enter the front lobby of the Red Sparrow Motel, an older man, the one you saw last night, looks up towards you, sort of with a half smile. Oh,
Good morning.
and you came back.
I always do. I'm good for it. How much do I owe you?
You said last night that you'd be coming back with the money.
I'm really sorry. I fell asleep. It was a super long night. Working girl.
A working girl. And his eyes kind of go slitted. He's an older man, maybe 70s. He's got big, thick rimmed glasses and balding hair balding with white hair on either side. You don't mean this isn't that kind of motel, miss?
Just raise my eyebrows. I'm sorry. Did you think? Don't worry about it.
Well, listen, there's no reason we can't get off on a good foot. You owe $32 for last night. How many nights are you planning on staying here?
I'll pay for tonight on top of my charge for last night, and we'll take it from there.
All right. He pulls out a small calculator and punches in the numbers and prints off a small little receipt, tears it off, and hands it to you and holds his hand out expecting cash.
I count out $66 onto the counter, and I push it towards him.
And he sort of looks down at his open hand and says, fair enough. And he takes the money and slides it off the counter. And as he does, he sort of puts it into a small till box under the counter, and he says, did you hear about the murder? It's in all the papers.
No, I'm sorry. What happened?
Oh, local boy was found up in the hills.
Did you know him?
No, not personally. Knew his family well. His father, Gregory, was a good man. But,
Sorry to hear of it.
well, I was too. This town's seen enough murders for 1 century, if you ask me. And he sort of looks over to a wall of newspaper clippings, only briefly, and then back to the clock, or to the desk.
Oh, is this, do you mind if I take a look?
Oh, of course. It's part of our history.
So, Marie goes over, checks out the wall.
And the wall of the the motel has a series of clippings. Some, Red Sparrow opened in 1966, nostalgia reasons. But there are maybe 1 or 2 very, very small articles that reference the deaths in 1982. And one is particularly interesting to you because it speaks of a name that you recognize. And as the man sort of interrupts your gazing and he says, is there anything else you need, miss?
Do you have the paper?
No. And he thinks back to how he held his hand out and you put the money on the table instead. Give me a charisma roll of some sort.
Okay.
Maybe charm? I don't know.
I don't understand why it's rolling 3 dice for me.
I don't know, you made it mad.
Yeah, that didn't work out super well.
Just try clicking the 100s. Oh, you doing the 100? Or are you doing
Oh,
2
that's
D10?
why, because I'm doing a D10 and a D100.
Yeah, just do the D100.
Hmm.
Logically, you're right. That's how you play it on the table. 4.
Much better.
Much better.
Can I take that second roll?
Yes. So he smiles at you and charmed, and he says, of course. And he grabs up a full stack of paper, not a full stack, but like a clipboard of paper, and puts it on just a big fucking pile of white paper.
I'll take them all.
He puts it on top, and he puts you a pencil. He said, you help yourself. And he goes into a small little back room, and you can hear a TV click on.
I pick up the newspaper, today's newspaper, and take a look through it. I know this is the local paper, so maybe it's got a little bit more information about this murder.
There doesn't seem to be anything that stands out from the Arkham paper that you were reading, again, because Harper's Hill is only a little bit north. But you do make note that it's the same, or that a name kind of comes up again. This article is written by Shay Tarpak, who was the same person that the larger paper must have scooped up, or for whatever reason bought a smaller portion of the same article. But the name doesn't sound familiar to you. But you can make note of it.
So I stick it in my satchel and pull out some hand sanitizer.
And you liberally squeeze it on.
Yeah, and I look around, see if there's anything else worth noting before I head back outside to my car.
Give me a spot hidden.
All right.
City 5?
Yeah.
And you have a 70, so that's a regular success. You take a look around, and again, you sort of note the decor, the dated wallpaper and such. Nothing seems to stick out to you.
Great. Well, I check my watch and head outside.
And as you head outside, you notice a car barreling down the street heading towards the waterfront. The crackling tires sort of you make note of as your eyes just listlessly drift towards it. Tam, you drive past the Red Sparrow Motel, an older motel that's just north, the northern part of town. It's in the sort of early afternoon morning, around 11:30. And as the afternoon sun is starting to reach its apex, a warm sense of familiarity washes over you. You see the waterfront in the distance, and you're reminded of walking along the pier with your family, holding hands. You're reminded of hanging out with Georgie and Maddie at the big red chair at the waterfront. But you're also saddened. You're reminded of the cold, blistery winds of January, and how that Christmas in 1982, or I should say 1981, was the last good Christmas that you had. You notice the clock on your dash again says 11:30. You agree to meet them at 12 o'clock at the clubhouse. What do you do for half an hour?
First place I'd probably like to go and visit is I just want to drive past my old house.
Okay.
Just reminisce about it. But really, I'd like to visit the old oak tree. Something about the dream last night. It just all seems a little unusual. Looking up at the stars, remembering me and Luke's conversation about there being something else out there. And that dream about the tree, about that gnarled tree, reminds me of the oak tree. And I feel like it's an old friend that I haven't visited in a long time. And maybe it's a message. Maybe I haven't visited in too long.
And you head to it. You head to the tree. And as you do, you pull up to the road beside the hill that the tree sits on top of. You see families, again, much like yours 35 years ago, walking the streets, the crisp autumn leaves swirling around them as the wind picks up, the cloudy sky showing the sun between the passing clouds. And as you get out of your car, you begin trekking up towards the tree, which sits atop like a mangled statue almost.
As I walk up to the tree, I bend down, and some of the autumn leaves that are still there in the cool afternoon, I pick them up and I smell them. And I sigh, and I remember it so vividly, everything about this place, and it feels right to be back. I walk up to the tree and I touch the bark. And I see how it's grown and changed over the years. It's been 35 years, and this oak tree has changed.
Yeah, you feel it, and just as when you were kids and they carved their names into it, people still to this day carve their names into it, even though you do see a large sign on the lawns that do not carve your names in the tree. And your hands sort of rub along the hollow in it, and you remember sticking a saddle and pieces of twine and marbles and candy in it. And for a second you search your pockets, just with a bit of humor.
Yeah, and I look through my pockets just to see what's there, and I find a piece of paper. It's actually an old candy wrapper that I had on my trip over, and I take some time and I I talk to the tree and I say, I know it's been a long time, and I fold the paper and I crease it carefully and I fold it again. I say, I didn't think it was right for me to come back, and I'm here now, and I'm sorry it's been so long. And I turn it into a little crane. I take the crane and I sit it inside the hollow and I say, forgive me.
And as the crane, you set it sort of just on the edge between the hollow and the outside, and as you say forgive me and place it, just a small gust of wind comes and the crane falls inside. And you're sort of, a bit of warmth washes over you as you head back towards your car and towards the clubhouse. Matt, you step into the police department, looking at the benches that you sat on almost 35 years ago. What do you do?
Well, first thing I realize is that it seemed a lot bigger back then, and I, have a little chuckle about that. And I do remember that this is sort of why I wanted to become a police officer. Thinking about Georgie's dad and how he was wrongly convicted at first, but they didn't seem to care, and I didn't want to become that police officer. I wanted to be a leader of police officers and show them that, you do what you need to do to get things right, even if it takes longer. And I kind of chuckled to myself because, here I am. I just got in a fight with my lieutenant because I was pencil whipping papers because I just didn't give a shit anymore. Because I look around, I look at the room where Georgie's father was, and again, I've been in those rooms, I've been talking to people, and bad guys happen. Shit happens. Nothing I do seems to make sense.
And as you stand there and you recollect seeing George's dad go into that room, you do feel a sense of newness looking at it from this side, almost like you're looking at it from the past. And as you stand, you sort of shimmy your way over to the benches that you sat on 35 years ago. And you replay that scene in your mind. And as you do, sort of stuck in a stupor, you hear a voice from beside you. Sorry, can I help you?
Oh, no, I'm good, thanks. I'm just in town, and I just am wasting time. And I know that in my head it's because I'm actually afraid to go to the clubhouse. I'm actually physically afraid of going there. And so I'm going to the police station more as let me just go around, look at old things.
And the man in front of you, who's dressed as an officer, Officer Brady, says, "Are you all right? Were you in a fight?"
Oh, yeah, and I show him my badge.
Oh.
I say I'm from Chicago. I'm just here to meet some old friends. Had to chase down a purse snatcher. Got a little rough.
All right. Well, can't say I've been there. It's pretty quiet around here. Well, had been pretty quiet around here. Officer Brady's the name, and he holds it in his hand.
Pleasure.
Sorry, your name?
Officer Jacobs.
Jacobs. Matt Jacobs.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Matt Jacobs.
Well, nice to hear you're back. And he sort of nods knowingly.
And I'm trying to remember if I remember this guy. Because, there's a lot I don't remember. There's a lot of my teen years that it was spent in a drunken stupor, getting high, getting in fights, partying up.
You can give me a knowledge roll if you'd like, or an idea or something.
Sure, let's give it a shot.
Or I guess it would be, I don't know, how do you want to justify it? History, maybe?
What do I got?
What's your highest stat that you could roll?
Intelligence.
Sure, let's just call it that.
Best shot.
Sure. Nope.
And yeah, nothing.
So you don't
recognize.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's going on? Anything, cop to cop? Anything I should be aware of in town?
And he sort of looks around and kind of says, "Well, I'm sure you heard about Luke Lawrence."
Yeah, it's why I'm here.
I know. And he sort of nods. He says, "We'll talk soon." And he backs away and he goes around a desk towards the back.
Yeah, and actually, I just quickly write down my number. And I'm like, it's my cell. It's on me all the time.
And he's sort of still walking. He says, "Just leave it with the receptionist." Fantastic, thank you.
Well, thanks.
And you head out to your vehicle and you head towards the clubhouse. George, you step in to your old homestead.
It's been a long time since I've been here, about 30 years. And the house was actually left to me. My father left it to me after he was moved into the nursing home in Pittsburgh. And I haven't been back. I haven't been back since. And the front lawn is dried but grown over. And as I step in, there's motes of dust floating in the air. And immediately I'm hit with a wave of nostalgia. I just stand there and take it in, looking at the little kitchen area and the old 70s table with the metal legs that me, Maddie, Tam, and Luke would all sit around.
And you remember being your dad, lifting you up and setting you on the counter when you were younger, and as you sort of walk into the house, running your fingers along the wood paneling, the 70s wood paneling, flecks of dust sort of illuminate through the window cracks, and you enter sort of the back area where your dad was, your dad's room, and you lean around the corner and you see the medical equipment, the
Yes.
beds that he sat on, the hanging bag of the IV drip from the later years of his life.
And there's a number of medical supplies that I actually am. They're quite familiar to me because when he moved to Pittsburgh in the nursing home, I went and visited him quite a bit. And I pick a few of the cases up and some of the gauze and things. And I think about some of the times that he used to, when he was in the nursing home, when I would help him out, and some of the things he would say to me. And I'm caught in many little moments of reveries as I go through the house. And I leave my clothes in my dad's room next to the bed.
Okay. And you go to leave, and that's when you feel the metal in your pocket and the gun. And for a second, you pull it out, and you consider whether you should bring it with you.
Right. I don't. I take it to where my dad had a safety box. It wasn't actually a locked safe, but
and you bend down.
It's like an old toolbox.
And you remove the small panel that you knew he hid it behind, and you slide out the box, and almost absentmindedly you flip it open, and you're about to put the gun in when you stop. And you realize that when he had come to live with you, you had forgotten about this box, and you set the gun down on the shag carpeting, and before you in the box are clippings, things like articles, but not about stores opening or the murders. No, they're small things from the local paper about you. When you won the spelling bee, when you were in the production, the musical production that you were in. And even though you had a small part, you had a name mentioned in the write-up, and he kept it. And for a second, you sit on the floor flicking through the old memories, and you come across one in particular. What is it?
It's actually something that I wrote and I didn't actually submit it to anything. It's mixed in with all the articles. Just a little story. Back when I was a boy, I remember I really had a fascination with Sherlock Holmes. And I wrote my own little Sherlock Holmes story. And it's not the whole thing, but just a certain part of it where I used my dad as a cameo. He kept that.
Yeah,
And,
you remember it well. It was Georgie Whitman versus Boogeyman Bannon.
Yeah, yeah.
And you fold it, actually, and you tuck it into your pocket.
Boogeyman Bannon.
As you stand up and you put your gun on top of it and you close it and slide it back. And you head towards the door and out to your car. And you head towards the clubhouse. Tam, as you pass through the clearing by the school, you're overcome by nostalgia. The memory of riding your bikes down the dirt path towards the clubhouse comforts you. And as you head past old stumps that you've seen 1,000 times, you see the bridge. What was once a simple log is now a reinforced metal bridge. It's small, homemade, but it looks sturdy.
I think I'm realizing that I have suppressed for a long time what happened here. I mean, I've been told for years about my delusions and my paranoia and how I was just trying to understand things that a child's mind was just not ready to understand. But still, part of me feels my heart race and my mind rushes, and I think maybe it's true. And I walk carefully towards the bridge, and I peer down over the side before stepping on it.
And as you look down over the side, you see the rushing water of the falls below you. You see where it scoops down past a bend and levels out flat. And you see in the distance the sandy shore and where you stood that night. And almost ever so carefully, you place your hand on the banister, the soft wood between your fingers, and you rub your hand on the wood, feeling the grain, and you feel it's safe, comfortable, almost familiar in a way.
I almost missed the log we had across the bridge, and I see the metal rusting, the iron that they've created, the rafters for this bridge, and the wood slats. And I take a deep breath and I tell myself, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And I walk across the bridge.
And as you do, that sense of familiarity again, but not in a, this looks homemade. It doesn't feel like the town put someone towards constructing this, and it's off the beaten path, as it were. And as you run your hand along the banister, walking carefully across, your thumb feels almost like braille, the carving. And for a second you stop and turn. And as you crouch down, you see carved into the banister, "Seeing is believing." Tam, Georgie, Maddie, and Luke, all carved in the same font. The font you know to be just an older version of Luke's.
I feel my heart jump to my throat, and I sit down.
And you sit on the bridge.
I realize how it must have felt coming back to this place once we all left, once we all abandoned him. And I just sit in the quiet, looking at the carving, my feet hanging over the edge.
And after a few minutes, you wipe the tears from your eyes, and you stand up, and you head towards the clubhouse. The leaves crunch below your feet, the barren trees swaying in the October wind, and as you make your way through the woods towards the dilapidated and ancient church, your old clubhouse, as the building comes up into view, you see it with fresh eyes. The once white side panels, the broken bell tower, the half-hearted attempts to build it up, all now long since stripped. The tall peak that Luke once threatened to jump from is now tipped and fallen in on itself. And as you approach, you duck under the yellow police tape and take a step forward, your feet landing on the soft wood with a hollow tap. You look around the half-built shelves, now covered in spray paint graffiti. You see the shelf that Luke made to hold the books, the ancient candle wax drippings of your late hours into the night. And on the ground, a cliché white chalk outline, blood stained on the floorboards. And from behind you, you hear a stirring. You see George and Matt for the first time in however many years.
Maddie, George. And I run over and I hug them both and I grab them both in my arms.
My goodness, Tam. Tam, you look fantastic. How are you?
Oh, I'm well now. What's happened? And I look at Maddie's face. What have you done to yourself?
Oh, hey, Tam. And I kind of back away uncomfortably from the hug. And guys, if this is the crime scene, we probably shouldn't be in here. We don't want to be messing it up or anything. I mean, there's no caution tape, so I'm...
This is our clubhouse. We can't, I mean, it's our space.
What do you mean this is... Guys, I don't have a lot of information about this. What do you mean this is the crime scene?
Well, okay. Is that what we're talking about? That's out of game here. Is that what the white tape is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Okay. Fashion. And through the whole time, I'm not making eye contact with Georgie. Kind of avoiding it. And as well as Tam, I kind of look at, but very uneasily. Yeah, you guys don't mind if, like, we should probably head outside.
Yeah, maybe we can go for a walk.
Well, I mean,
I haven't seen you guys in years. Let's go take a walk.
Sure.
And I lead them outside.
So the three of you take a walk around the clubhouse, and out back of the clubhouse, as you remember it all those years ago, there's sort of those four clearings where buildings sat forever ago, and you kind of stand out in the clearing, the trees, 50 minus feet from you, and the three of you stand in sort of a triangle looking towards each other, and for a good few minutes you just sort of study each other's faces. In Tam, you see a grown woman from the young girl who wore the knitted cap. In Georgie, you see his eyes are just like his father's, deep and gray, and now beginning to fade a bit. And Matt, you see the young boy who's so eager and excited to make everything a game and a competition. But now he hides his eyes. He stares down. For such a confident person, you're perplexed by his almost nervousness.
Matt, I thought about you the other night. I was sitting at home and the TV was off. I just was listening to the radio. I have it on the background sometimes. And the station that I listened to, it just recently changed, and it went to an 80s playlist. And I gotta say, it was like you took over the DJ's booth and put your own playlist in there. It took me right back.
Georgie, I'm so sorry. That time back in high school when the football team was, I'm so sorry, man. I should have done something. I just want to be with the cool guys,
And I walk up to Matt, and I wonder if Tam knew about this. I guess this would have been...
Tam left not long after the incident with Luke's sister. My family thought it was best that we leave with all the darkness that's happened, and I left even before we got into high school.
Okay, so you don't know about what happened after to me and George, or to me and Matt?
No.
Well, I walk up to Matt, and looking right in his eyes, I say, Matt, it was a long time ago. And we were still kids. You were still a kid. I mean, that's
Yeah, but
kind
you
of...
didn't deserve it. You and Tam, you're always better than me.
Hey, yeah, well, no, definitely not.
I laugh and I say, Tam, I haven't been called that in years. I go by Tamara now.
Tamara.
Well, I feel it's a
So
little bit more formal. I pull out a card and I give it to them. And I say, I'm a businesswoman now. And, I work in real estate.
Oh, no kidding. And I take one of her business cards.
And for a moment, there's pleasantries and sort of catching up, and you don't know how, and even recollecting, you don't know who, but Luke gets mentioned, and almost instantly the conversation drops as the three of you sort of share an awkward look.
You know what? If anyone would be at peace, it'd be Luke. I mean, he knew there was more to life than this. He understood better than anyone. I knew.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm sad to hear he's gone.
How did it happen? I mean, out of the blue, I get a call from him one night, and then I get a message from you that...
Now, neither Georgie or Matt got a call from Luke. So the minute you hear that, George, your eyes sort of perk up.
You got a call from him?
Yeah, I assumed he called everyone from the old club.
Matt?
It didn't make a lot of sense, and it was hard for me to remember, but he said he kept searching, and that Ackerman, he was wrong. He didn't get it all, something like that. Does that make sense to you? Ackerman? I mean, the name
Ackerman.
From that night, I think it was that old man we went and interviewed or talked.
And
Old man Ackerman.
thinking, Tam, you reach in your pocket and you pull out your cell phone and you play the message out loud for them, which says in Luke's own voice, Ackerman was wrong. He didn't stop it all those years ago, not entirely. And we're the only ones that can stop it. Help me stop this thing once and for all.
I mean, listen to his voice. It sounds like he's tired. And I mean, to be thinking about that whole time.
And I kind of absentmindedly kick some leaves and some twigs and pick one up, and I'm kind of breaking a twig, and it's like, he's not the only one, Tam. I mean, for years, like, I was convinced that you were magical, that the things you talked about. I mean, I saw you cast a spell on marbles, and it worked.
Speaking of which,
spent years like with the police psychiatrist,
Maddie, and
telling
I
me
say,
differently.
There's definitely magic in this world, but I mean, the magic in eyes of a child. I mean, who knows what we saw, what we remember? Our imaginations were amazing back then.
wait, so Tamara?
I guess you guys can call me Tam.
Okay, it's gonna be hard to call you anything else. So you got this message from him. He sounds like he's in a lot of trouble. I mean, we didn't get a message.
Well, how'd you find out?
You didn't
About him dying? I mean, you called me.
Yeah, Georgie, Tam and Luke were always closer, you know?
Yeah, no. But I mean, I guess you didn't feel it important to call us, or I mean, if he didn't call us, then maybe I don't know why he didn't call us, Tam. I mean, I'm not accusing you of anything, but
We haven't talked in years. I mean, I thought he would have called you.
yeah, that's fair.
And at this point, I'm actually walking back towards the clubhouse and just kind of from the outside looking in and seeing if there's anything, you know, but I'm completely sick to my stomach.
I wonder if that book is still there. And I want to go in at some point, and I want to look for the old of our old missions, the blue book we had, and I think it had some spells that me and Luke made up, and just for good old time. Who cares about the police tape? And I bend underneath to go in.
And just
sorry, as you return to the clubhouse, there's a stranger sitting at the table. It's like it's too small, almost, the furniture for her, and she's kind of leaning there, smoking a cigarette roll, cool, and just watching the three of you duck under this police tape and approach. And she says, "Hello."
Hi, are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, Claire West.
And she stands up.
Are you a part of the
Claire stands up
investigation?
from the small table and she takes a half step towards you and sort of pushes out a hand.
It's nice to meet you all. Sorry, I know all of your names already.
Yeah, George. And
Okay, who are you and what do you want? Why
You're
are you
in
here?
Luke's spot.
I'm sorry?
That's Luke's spot. He used to sit there.
I didn't mean to cause any disrespect. I assume you're here because of what happened.
yes. Well, no. Well, yeah. Answer, Maddie.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
And I very quickly flash my badge so that she doesn't see it's from Chicago.
And Maddie, you act differently too. You're now locking eyes, and both George and Tam have a different sense from you, like work Matt.
Oh, Matthew Michaels. It's good to see that you're part of the force. She pulls a badge from her waist and shows you that she is FBI.
Okay, so you are part of the
me.
case. What's up, Matt?
Nothing.
FBI's good.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm sorry.
About
What
the
so
awkwardness. but
what brings you here?
Well, I'm just down to see if I can't be of any assistance.
In?
Oh, in the murder case of your childhood friend. I'm
It
sure.
warrants the FBI?
Well, we like to have an eye on things.
Well, we haven't talked about it too much. I say referring to Matt and Tamara, but that is why I messaged you guys, just to figure this out.
Is the book there, Harlan?
No.
Did you guys take anything from the scene? Any evidence?
You're saying that
Yeah, who are you addressing?
lady?
Marie.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I just
Claire.
arrived. I heard you speaking outside, and I didn't want to interrupt what I assume was emotional greetings. So no, actually, I just arrived this morning.
Oh.
So
And I just your files are old. I don't go by Michaels anymore. It's Jacobs. I had it legally changed. And I turn around, I just push through the police tape and storm out.
I'm sorry about him. He's,
No, not at all.
You say you know us by name, then maybe you know that we have a connection. What case are you investigating?
Oh, the case of Luke's death, of course. Just trying to make sure that everything is on the up and up. I would be really interested to hear any information that you might have about his past, last few days.
Okay, and George is feeling a bit, this is serendipitous. Like, here is an FBI agent that's offering help, but Matt's reaction kind of changes how he's feeling a bit. He's feeling a lot more tense.
Tam,
and
when you see Matt leave, Tam, what do you do? Do you stay or do you follow him?
I see that the conversation is going to a place of a little bit more detail and things that Georgie is more, or at least I remember him to enjoy a lot more. And I'm worried about Maddie, especially with his face the way it was. So I walk out to see him.
Okay, so you follow Maddie out, and George, you turn your attention back to Claire.
We haven't been back here in 30 years. 35, actually. God, it's been so long. So it's a little emotional for us to come back. This was our old clubhouse.
Sure, of course. Do you mind if? And she holds a recorder up.
No, well, no. Actually, I'd prefer if you didn't.
Sure.
Just, I'd like to get to know you a little bit more first. So your name is Claire.
Yes.
You're from the FBI. What else can you tell me about yourself?
I'm 49 years old. I live in Arkham nearby, so this is my district, and I'm here to help in any way that I can.
Okay. What information do you have so far?
Well, a lot of that is classified at the moment, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to keep that quiet. I hope you understand.
Well, put it this way. I mean, I haven't talked to the other guys about this yet, really, but that's why I'm here too. I want to get to the bottom of this.
Sounds like we have similar goals.
Yes, we do. But if we have similar goals, I and the other two, we need to know that we can trust you.
Of course.
And if we're opening this relationship with a closed file of confidentiality, then I don't know how far we're going to get.
And George, as you're talking to Claire, your eyes drift down towards the floorboards where she's standing next to, and you see the blood that was Luke's. And for a moment, you're overcome by emotion as you look back up towards her.
I need to sit down. Yeah, and I take a seat, and I put my hand to my forehead.
And Claire, you notice that he looks down at it, and you were actually standing a bit in the stained blood.
Oh my. I'm sorry, excuse me. And she goes outside to get some air.
Tam, you see Matt, and he's leaning against a tree as you catch up with him.
I walk over and I say, Astrid has 2 kids now. And I take out my wallet and I show pictures of my grandchildren. I say, Maddie, the older one there, he's almost 7, remember? He's not much younger than when we started really hanging out.
And Matt he's sort of spitting, and you think he might have been vomiting because you can't quite hear him over the spit that he's just finishing out of his throat.
Yeah, Dan. Sorry, they're beautiful. You're a lucky lady.
Yeah, it hasn't been easy. I mean, me and Aaron, it didn't work out, but Astrid is wonderful, and her kids are amazing. They mean everything to me.
You look like Tam. You look like life's
Hey,
pretty good
Maddie,
too.
what's going on with you? You don't. And I look him in the eyes and I say, "Are you still in there?"
That's the question. And then I turn and head back to the clubhouse.
And Maddie, as you enter the clubhouse, you see Claire and George sitting at the very small table awkwardly. George with his glasses in his hands, wiping his eyes.
Oh, watch out, Matt. There's they haven't done anything to this crime scene at all. It's all right there.
So I extend a hand to Claire. Sorry, it's a lot to take in right now.
I totally understand. And I just want to try to make things easier for you boys. And lady, I'm sorry.
So
I do
what
have a
we know
couple
so
of
far?
questions. Well, I was hoping to learn when the last time is that you heard of the deceased. When did he get in contact with you? If there's anything that he said that was strange, that came off unusual for him.
And Tam, for a second, you sort
Did I
of
hear that?
share a look. Yeah, I assume you'd be following Matt back in, yeah?
Yeah. I look at the other guys and I shrug and I say, well, I got a kind of an unusual message. Well, unusual in multiple ways. I mean, I haven't heard from Luke in years, and then I get this recording, and I hand her my cell phone. I say, just press play there, and you'll hear it.
So she does, and listens to the whole thing, and she pulls out a pad of paper and takes a couple of quick notes. Her cigarette's just dangling out of her mouth. Okay. Very interesting. You say you haven't heard from him in quite a long time. Is that true for the rest of you as well?
Yeah, it's been, well, since I moved away.
Same.
What about you, Matt? Yeah.
Same. Since I don't know.
We
kind of lost touch. Grade 10, grade 11.
Yeah. We got a message from one of the officers in town here. Officer Paul Hall. Is he on the force still?
Sheriff.
He is, yes. Who is this Ackerman?
Ackerman.
He says Ackerman was wrong.
And the three of you share sort of a nervous look amongst each other. And Tam, are you giving me a spot hidden?
Yeah, I want to see if they've missed anything, and I just got under by a hair. I have spot hidden of 70.
Perfect. You remember that in the bookshelf that Luke built, there's a fake piece of wood to hold it up. It's held in 3 spots, but the middle one, it can be just slid over, and anything can be stuck up there. And while they're talking, you walk directly past them and just slide it aside.
I wonder to myself, I said, what were you doing in here, Luke? And I pull it aside and see if there's anything in there.
And there is. It's just a small obituary that's been circled from only a few years after you left. And it's the obituary of one Junior DeWitt Ackerman from March 26, 1982.
And I pull it out and I say, I guess it's not surprising, but Luke must have been keeping track of Ackerman. He looks here like he's long since passed away. And I hand him the obituary. It's not surprising. He was an old man when we were children.
And the obituary reads, J.D. Ackerman, 85, of 21 Martha Avenue, Harper's Hill, died Wednesday at Central Maine Medical Center in Arkham, Massachusetts, following a long illness. Born in Arkham, June 2nd, 1897, the son of Joseph S. and Nancy Holland Farrand, he was educated at Miskatonic University and was self-employed for many years until his retirement in 1965. He was a quiet and kind member of the small community of Harper's Hill. He leaves behind no survivors. His home and possessions have been donated to the Maritime Museum of New England, located in Harper's Hill, Massachusetts.
Well, that was nearly 25 years ago. That's not long after we left. Is that 35 years ago?
That was the year you left, actually. And you turn back to Claire, whose cigarette is wafting in your face.
Do you mind? That's really bad for health. And it'll ruin your complexion. And I grab the cigarette out of her mouth. Really, it's for your own good. And I put it out on the floor and flick it out the window.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And as you snatch it from Claire's mouth, give me a let me think for a second. Give me a roll. Give me a psychology roll, Tam.
Cool. All those years in my psychological assessments helped me.
Well, I could have done this defensively or offensively, but I feel like it's more interesting this way.
Psychology, I got a 51.
And what's
My psychology is 40. So unfortunately, not too successful.
You can't tell anything.
I assume I did. She actually meant the thank you.
Of course.
All women talk to each other that way.
You're so brave to wear that outfit.
So Claire scrubs a hand through her short gray hair and looks around and says, perhaps we can adjourn to somewhere that is not a crime scene to talk.
Yeah, that's.
Well, maybe we should look around first. Maybe you guys missed something. We are pretty good at figuring things out. And I kind of smile at the other guys.
I feel like we're kind of putting the cart in front of the horse here, in a manner of speaking, Tamara. I feel like we still have a lot of stuff to talk about before we even begin. So maybe if you wanted to, like, I mean, I've got my old place. My dad left it to me. I mean, it's pretty shoddy right now, but you're all welcome to come back there, and we could just catch up a little bit, because I feel like I have a million things to talk to you guys about still, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
we're in the thick of it.
Did your father pass away?
Yeah, he did. Old age in a nursing home.
And how long ago was this?
That's a good question. How long ago was it again, GM?
What the fuck would I know? I'm not the person. Do you want to tell her?
No, yeah, I don't mind. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people. I'm used to
It
the.
was about 10 years ago.
And what was
About 10 years ago.
what was Arthur suffering from?
That's a good question.
He had
Why
cancer.
does she know so much about us? Isn't it kind of weird that, like, you knew our names before we got here? I don't think anybody knew we were coming. Why would you look into us?
Oh, it's just my business to know.
And I look around the place and I say, is it because our names are on the walls? And I point to a couple places we've written our names.
It's a very charming playhouse. You must have led a charmed childhood here.
It was a magical place at times, but it wasn't always a charmed place, as you
Listen,
said.
are we suspects
No, absolutely
in
not.
the FBI? Then I don't understand why you would have files on us. That makes no sense. When we should be investigating Luke.
Certainly doing that, and I'm doing the best job that I can.
Do you have
sure you
information
are.
on Luke? Because really, all we have is the newspaper, and that wasn't much.
I
Police
am.
files you can get access to, or something like.
I'm in the process of accumulating information.
Put it this way, Claire, you're jumping in, you're asking a lot of questions, and don't get me wrong, I want to solve this case as well, but we've got a lot of things to talk about, just the three of us still, and you seem to know so much about us. How did Luke die? Do you know?
He was murdered.
With what?
Well,
He was murdered here, in this, right here.
And Claire, you frantically search your notes, and for a second, Maddie, you see something in Claire that something beneath the surface that's just cracking a bit, not in an angry way, just something that's not. You can see her sort of just flip through a book real quick.
Yeah, no, it's
Maddie?
cool. We have all night.
Maddie, I'm just doing my job.
Yeah. I understand, and I respect that. But please understand that we have very limited information. You seem to have some, and obviously I realize this is pretty personal for us, but we would like that information.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are appropriate channels that you can go through to apply for freedom of information, and
So you're
I will
telling
be happy to
You're
direct
telling
you.
me right now that either you don't have the information or you're not willing to share it, yet you're coming here and asking us questions.
Well, I think that comes with a badge.
How old is Claire?
I'm 49.
49. Okay.
Well, this is a very interesting meeting, but I think that if you're not going to cooperate with us, then I don't see any reason why we should cooperate with you. Am I right, Matt?
Claire, you have a business card?
I do, yes.
Yes. Do you have your supervisor's business card?
Not on me, unfortunately.
Do you have a number of your supervisor?
I will get that to you as soon as I possibly.
You're telling me you don't have the number of your supervisor right now?
Well, not on me. No, I am currently out of office.
Again, did you guys see her badge?
She holds it out to you. Special Agent FBI.
And it
I
looks.
grab it from her hand and look at it closely.
You can try.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. But you can look at it closely.
Well, if she holds it up, and I would like grab her. I don't even care.
Tam, don't grab an FBI agent's badge.
Well,
Yeah, but like it looks legit.
It looks
innocently.
legit. It looks legit.
Right.
And you're each now, you realize without realizing it, you're each standing now. And it's starting to get warm in the small clubhouse, and you're each sort of darting your eyes amongst each other.
Okay, like again, I apologize. I'm getting worked up here.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Again, it's nothing personal. There's way too much going on here. There's way too much we don't know.
Speaking of stuff that we don't know, Matthew or Maddie, which do you?
It's not.
Matt, I'm curious how you obtained those contusions on your face.
How is that relevant to the investigation of Luke?
I'm just really a curious person.
Pardon me,
well-
I walk between them, and I go and look at the blood, and I want to see, is it on the floor around the patch?
Yeah.
Is there any on the wall?
Did you roll already?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I can.
Yeah, give me a roll.
72.
You see nothing.
Are you sure?
Well, I don't know. So it doesn't seem like a success.
What am I rolling for?
Spot hidden.
Spot hidden.
And you didn't do up a character sheet.
I did. I got a 70, so I would like to push it.
Or
Okay.
use luck just to lower it a little bit.
Or luck.
Yeah, I'll
sure.
use luck because it's early and I feel like I don't need it yet.
Yes, there you go. Dead. No, you go below 70. You can see the blood stain, and it looks sort of like pooling blood on it. But you notice very faintly that there's a trail leading out by the door to the clubhouse. But that's about all you can see. It's only a few dots or so.
And
What are you looking at, Tamara?
Well, there's a trail here. I don't know what it is, and I'm just rubbing on the floor here. It seems to be leading out of the clubhouse.
Very interesting.
Oh, hello.
I'm sorry. This is very interesting. It seems that due to the way that the blood is spattered, that whoever caused this drip was moving fairly quickly.
Yeah, well, you take a look, and it doesn't necessarily look like the drips, but more of like a smudging, like the body was moved.
I wonder if we could go and see. Has anyone identified Luke's body? I mean, obviously we know it's Luke.
Can we just go to the police station and ask someone that might be willing to give us answers? Does anyone object to that?
No, I don't object to it. I just I wish we could have had a little bit more time, like had a coffee or something. We're just throwing ourselves into it, but I mean, I guess
It's really not our place, I guess.
what?
Just curious. Well,
No.
I mean, it's Claire's job, and it's
No. Tamara, don't get me wrong. The reason I messaged you guys right away was because I wanted to figure this out. Something stirred inside of me when I found out that as I kind of am spilling my guts, I kind of glance over to Claire and just see how she's reacting. But I say, when I heard that he'd passed away, I realized that leaving you guys out of my life wasn't something that I wanted. I missed you guys terribly, and I didn't even realize it. And it's too bad that I needed Luke passing away to tell me that. So, I mean, it reminds me of long ago, the time when we were in the clubhouse, and we had to figure everything out about what happened to Jane, all for Luke, right? Those feelings haven't changed. They're still there. And
and I walk over to hearing Georgie, and I walk over to Claire. I say, Claire, there's a lot going on here. And I think we have a lot we can contribute to the case if it means figuring out what happened to Luke. I'm willing to help. And I look over at Maddie, who I know has probably got a little bit of his feathers ruffled, being that she's FBI and he's a police officer. I say, I mean, I think there's more going on here that is going to help the case, guys. I think that message about Ackerman, I think Luke might have been getting involved in some serious things, and maybe he was getting close to some realizations when he got attacked. Claire, if you want our help, we will help you, but you got to understand, Luke is very special to us, and I think he deserves that we work together on this to turn over every stone to find out exactly what happened to him.
And I'm just nodding and listening to you, and just pause for a second before saying, listen, I apologize. I can come on really strong. I am just really eager to solve this one for me, you know? So I probably came off a little bit harsh.
Do you know Luke?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't. But I can understand that you all must be feeling tremendous pain right now. And I just want to express my condolences.
And as Claire says this, her voice feeling close with the warm, wet walls of the clubhouse, close to each of you, the three of you sort of share a knowing look, and for a moment you're transported back through just Georgie's words to that night, pulling that file from the shelf, writing in the big black marker who killed Jane Lawrence, and the faith you had in Luke to find who did this to her, and the trust that you gave to each other, and the feeling of family. And when you look at Claire, that memory of Luke, his inspiration, his passion, his care, his fear, echoes true.
I can help you.
Yeah.
I think she can.
Yeah? Maddie, what about you?
I am still stuck on Georgie's words. I tuned out the conversation. I just turn and I punch a hole right through the wall because it's like chipboard OSB that's rotted over time. But I catch myself on a nail on one of the studs and kind of not cut but scratch.
Damn it, Matt, what the hell are you doing? And I walk over to him and I hold his hand. I say, God, you're an idiot. Sorry. And I take out a napkin and...
Claire's like, hold on, don't touch that. Oh, don't touch that. And she goes through her bag and she's got like little prepackaged sanitary wipes, and she kind of like tosses them to you. Like, do you have a tetanus shot? You should probably get one.
I'm good. Listen, Claire.
Yeah.
I'm all for you coming along. I really am. But you got to be on board with helping.
I will. Yeah. Best of my ability.
First thing that you could do is share what you know. But, I mean, maybe we're moving too fast. You know, we are standing in the middle of a crime scene. Maybe we should move somewhere a little bit more comfortable, like you suggested, Claire. At least that we could talk a little bit more.
If you wouldn't mind.
So, as the four of you nod, and the three from the Seeing is Believing agency kind of think to yourselves, you know, for Luke, whatever it takes for Luke, you agree to meet at the diner that you met at 35 years ago with Paul Hall to talk about the case. And we're going to stop there for the mid-game pose. That's right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Victor stream.
Longest intro ever.
Pretty much. yeah, thank you so much for hanging out with us this evening. It is so great to be here with you guys. Back into the world of GRIMM, an exciting world to be in. With some new faces and some familiar characters. I'm excited, very excited for what the prospect is, or what I guess the future will bring. But the mid-game post, this is the part where we stop the action and we jump to the Facebook group and ask you guys a question. First person to answer the question correctly, or sorry, I should say, of the people that answer the question correctly, you'll be entered into a small pool where we will roll a 1d10. I think in this case it'll be a medium difficulty. And you guys will be able to win some XP. So the question for today, and the mid-game post, and I'm posting it now, is what is the name, or who is the name, who, let's do it this way. Who is Matt Jacobs' psychiatrist? What is his name? The name of Matt's, oh my god, how do you spell psychiatrist?
BSY.
Psychiatrist. Joking, obviously. So there you go. The first 10 people to answer that, I will roll a 1d10, and whoever is picked out of that, you will get 1 XP. Thank you for being here. If you are watching this for the first time, welcome. Please like the video. Anyone who's watching right now, like the video on YouTube. If you are not part of the Facebook group, please go there, join the Facebook group, and like the Facebook page. You'll notice at the beginning during the credits, we announced the MVP, which is the most valuable post, which went to Chris Lawrence for what post, Joe? What was the post that he won for?
Let me just pull it up here real quick. Sorry, I'm all messed up with my windows here. Come back to me in just a second.
Perfect. If you are also, you'll notice in the description of this video there is a link for Extra Life. Extra Life is a charity that we are working in conjunction with somehow to support the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals. If you have the time and the money, please donate to them. It is a very important cause and it is a very great charity. So please, if that is of interest to you, take a second right now. The action is stopped. This is intermission for pee breaks. Go follow the link and donate what you can. And then come back and like the video, because that's really, I was just going to say more important, but that's not even funny to joke about that. Joe, so how did you win?
Yeah, so Chris was posting about how the Invictus community encouraged him to play more RPGs or reintroduce you to the, RPG lifestyle, or bring new people in. And I thought it was a really adorable post. He's talking about how he got into End of the World, zombie apocalypse, and then that kind of spawned this really touching discussion about how awesome our community is, and it really is. So I thought that deserved props this week.
Damn straight it did. Well done, Chris. Not you, Chris. Woo! The other Chris. So well done, Chris Lawrence. And for GRIMM, we're going to be doing it that way. We're going to adding the MVP into the credit sequence, and we're going to be skipping over the intro and doing more of a mid-game thing. Okay, so we have the name of Matt's psychiatrist. We have a Carrie Elwes. One could only hope, but let's see how many answers we got. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 correct answers. So you know what? Let's just roll a 1d6 because that's an easier way to do it, and we're not going to wait till 10. Oh wait, I have a drum roll. There we go. I thought I rolled a 1d6. Oh, it's because I'm on GM. A 3! That means it is not Rin Venus. It is my very good and beautiful friend, Björn. Well done, buddy. Yeah, it was Dr. Ethan Kane, was a Matt psychiatrist. So, call him any time.
I'm going to write that down just in case I need to call him.
You should. He's a good guy.
Dr. Ethan.
I know, and he had all these nice little whatchamacallit, Rorschach tests as well. But I never got to them. Well, we were busy. We didn't want to spend time seeing what the hell Maddie was going to think of a fucking symbol. What do you think this is, Maddie?
Pelvis.
It does, doesn't it? I thought the same.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It looks like a skeleton pelvis.
Yeah. Well, yes, skeleton. Perfect. All right. Well, that is it for the mid-game post. I am having fun. Are you guys enjoying yourselves?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't all talk at once.
No.
Yeah.
Let's get them, fellas.
And what about you guys, the community? You're having fun as well?
Listen, that's for you.
Perfect. Oh, Joe, you have your own dice now, by the way. There's gray. So.
Yeah, I tried
Nice.
to reload the page and it didn't work for me. So maybe next game.
There you go. No, too late. That's it. You're done forever. Thank you, Tim, for making that very quickly. Did you message him? Did you beg him? Please.
No, Tim is just on top of it.
He's on top of everything, including myself.
Yeah.
All right. Fantastic. Well, enough about that. Let's go back to the
Actually,
action.
can I just do a quick shout out to Aiden Camacho and Blake Howes for watching? And
Are they
'cause
watching?
they're they are. They're watching live tonight.
Oh,
So
hey,
nice.
Aiden. How's it going, bud?
Hello.
I've heard lots about you. Round of applause. I don't know the other person. Do I know the other person?
No, you don't
I don't
know
know the other person. Aiden gets a shout out.
Yeah.
Is the other guy okay too?
Yeah, he's all right. He's a good kid.
Aiden, you're cool. Yeah,
He's a
you.
good kid.
The other
Yeah,
guy,
don't
you
laugh.
watch yourself. You be a little better. All right. So, enough of that. Let's go back to the action. Back to the Motor League. So, where'd you say you're going? Oh yeah, the diner.
The Dinah.
The diner. Let's call it. Yeah. Let me do a sound effect so we get back in the action. Justin can cut it out too. You pull up in front of the diner, across from the redwood chair at the pier. The pier is surprisingly alive with people for a Monday afternoon in October. And as you step out of the car, the Halloween decorations in the front of the diner remind you of a simpler time. You see jack-o'-lanterns on either side of the stone steps leading up to the boothed windows at the front. A chain link fence on either side of the diner, but the brightly lit day makes you feel, for the first time, home as you each exit the car.
Do we all take our own cars?
I don't know, did you?
Well, we had to. I was gonna leave mine there.
Yeah, I'm driving.
So you each take your own cars and step out.
It's actually
Arriving.
the first time I'm actually self-conscious because I realize that hastily getting dressed to come here, I still have like the same coffee-stained T-shirt that I had on earlier. I haven't shaved in days.
Do you change in the car? Try to find a cleaner shirt?
Basically, that's what I did. I just had my duffel bag and changed in the car on the way here, and I realized, yeah, I could probably use a shower.
So you exit your cars and you walk up the steps to the diner, which opens with a chime. Again, passing the jack-o'-lanterns. And you see a booth in the corner where Tam is already there, and she waves. And
Can you believe this place is still here? It's amazing. I thought this place would shut down. Like, I honestly thought they would have got not the green light on the food preparation stuff. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they've changed.
Yeah, well, it doesn't seem all that different. They still got the red pleather booth.
And
They don't have root beer floats anymore, though.
you remember
What?
you remember just 35 years ago, sitting maybe 3 booths ahead with Deputy Paul Hall speaking to the 3 of you about the murders that happened 35 years ago. And as you look out the window and back to Claire, who's now sitting across from you, sort of with her notebook closed on the table in front of her, you almost are pained to ask again about Luke, but you know that it must be discussed.
Claire, we have lots we can share, and I mean, we have a history with Luke, and I think it's got something to do with this case. But maybe you can share something so we can get the ball rolling.
All right. Well, I was at the crime scene earlier this morning. So I'm sorry if this is going to come as a shock to you, but it was a fairly brutal murder. Right now, we don't have any particular suspects. I'm working closely with the police force, and I'm not sure how much else I can tell you.
Were there any marks on the body? Any strange symbols, marks?
And as you say that, Both Tam and Georgie, the two of you swallow hard because you know exactly where Maddie is coming from. And for a second, Tam, you actually turn away, looking out the window, and you close your eyes, hoping for what Claire is about to say.
She turns to the waitress who's just showed up at the table and says, "I'll have manager's special, please."
Same.
I'm not sure if you were close enough with Luke in the later parts of his adolescence to know about the books that he keeps.
Was there anything on Luke that looked roughly like this?
How do you know about that?
Just a guess from when we were kids.
From when you were kids? Was this something that you saw him draw, or?
Well, you've got our files. You know all about us. So
That's not true.
you
No.
must know that when we were younger, there were several murdered children in Harper's Hill.
The only reason that I know your full names is from the prior murder investigations and the fact that the three of you were so closely involved with it.
Right. So in those murder investigations, each of the victims had this symbol on them.
Yes, I know.
So you
I'm
do know
curious
that.
why you know that.
Can you answer the question, Claire? I mean, aren't we working together here? Did Luke have that on his body?
Yes, he did.
And almost, Tam, a sigh of relief almost comes out of you. Relief that somewhere deep inside of you, something that you've crushed for 35 years has been let free. But immediately following that relief is an overwhelming fear that washes over Georgie and Maddie as well.
And Luke was right. Ackerman was wrong. He didn't stop it. They're all connected, and whoever did this to those people.
Where's Thomas Edwards now?
He's passed away. He died in prison.
You
The mark that was on Luke's body. Did it look like, I don't know, how did it look like it was carved into him?
Well, I can tell you about the coroner's report if you like.
Do you have
the
it on you?
clinical explanation. I do not have it with me. No, I'm sorry. The deceased was found with a shallow tear in the same kind of orientation that.
So it was torn into him.
Yes, it matches the description, the image that you just drew for me on this napkin. She holds it up to you. It looks like this. It's about this big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, Matt, I know where you're going with this. The reason he's asking for specificity about how the symbol looked was, I'm sure you know this already since you know about Mr. Edwards' whereabouts, but he was a copycat, and he was carving the symbols into people, whereas whatever he was copying, it was a different formation.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out how the other ones were put into the bodies, but they weren't branded, or it was different.
More like a blunt thing, right, Tamara?
From what I remember. Yeah.
And
So
as
you have,
as you're sitting there, the ding of the door opens, and for a second, Maddie, your eyes flick upwards, and you see an older woman walk in, maybe 70, 80, but still spryly, still spry.
Right.
And she spryly walks towards you, and with she does
Do I
that,
recognize her?
and you do, vaguely, like an old photo almost, and she walks directly up to you with wet eyes, and she says, Maddie. And she reaches a hand out and cups yours.
Yeah. Good to see you again.
And
it's been a while.
she floats her eyes over to Georgie and Tam. Boys, it's so good to see you again. And Georgie, you recognize this as Luke's mom. And for a moment, the three of you, as Tam and Maddie, you realize as well who this is. You just share a look between the four of you.
Really sorry for your loss.
I stand up and I
No words.
offer my seat.
No. I'm just I'm so glad you guys are back together. I just wished it could have been with Luke here as well.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Special Agent Claire West. I'm very sorry for your loss.
No. Hi. And she reaches a hand out to you as well.
I'm shaking.
Claire was just asking us some questions about the thing.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry about Luke too, and I mean, in a way, we're back together again. I mean, we haven't been back to Harper's Hill in over 30 years for some of us.
And when you say that, you know, even though she just offered it, it hits her in a different way. And she says, you know, Luke, he kept thinking, he thought you'd come back. I guess he was right. And she sort of laughs a bit morosely. I saw you in the window, and I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew it's tomorrow morning. And she points, and across the street, maybe 3 buildings down, is a very large church.
Can I get you coffee?
No. I'm off to meet with the.
Do you need any help getting ready? I know it's
No, please. It's okay. It's okay. And she backs away from the table and sort of nods to you, Claire, and says, "Nice. It's a pleasure meeting you. I hope you can come tomorrow as well." And you can see vaguely on the sign, it does say funeral for Luke Lawrence tomorrow morning.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah. And she nods and sort of backs away. And
Please, if there's anything I can do to help, and I give her one of my cards.
And she takes it and sort of looks at it with a smile for a second. Maddie Michaels grew up to be a police officer.
Well, it's Matt Jacobs now, but yes.
Yeah, Gregory would have liked that. He passed away a few years ago, but we separated long before that. I don't know. Anyway, it's nice.
That honestly a pleasure, and we will be there for tomorrow.
And she,
ma'am,
yeah.
I'm so sorry. If you don't mind, tomorrow, would you have some time to speak with us? Perhaps after the funeral. Would that be?
Claire,
that's a little pushy.
And she sort of looks at Maddie and Tam, and you can see there's a hesitancy in her eyes as well. And then she looks back at you, Claire, and says, "No, of course, if it would help, yeah." And she kind of locks eyes only with the 3 as she leaves. Goodbye, boys, and Tam, and she heads out with Pating.
Ding. So as she said that, as Claire said that, asked that, I actually kind of felt a little good that she asked it, and I was kind of surprised with Tam and Matt, because she said if we can ask a couple questions, which seems a bit more inclusive. So I sit down.
Did I say something wrong?
No. You're okay. You're okay, Claire. So you were going to be sticking around long enough.
Maddie doesn't think so. Maddie thinks she said something wrong. I can see it. What's up, Maddie?
It's fine.
I mean, people were going to be asking her questions either way, right? She's the mother of of Luke.
2 murdered children.
Yeah, she's been through a lot. But we're doing this for Luke, right? And if she has information that will help us figure out what happened to him, then we should be asking her questions sooner than later so we can actually figure out what happened.
Exactly my thinking, George.
No, people need some time to. I mean, it must be overwhelming for her.
No doubt it is.
Certainly, but in my opinion, the best way to ease the sorrow of losing someone is to determine what happened to them. And so...
And what did happen? You said that it was a gruesome death. What happened?
We're still trying to figure that out.
Well, why was it gruesome? I mean, you conceded that there was the mark that we had to pull from you, but how did he die? Was there a weapon? Where was he? Was he in the clubhouse? Is that where he was found?
His body was found in pieces. I don't know how much you want me to tell you about this because it's very graphic.
It wasn't Luke in the end. He was free from that body. So however it happened, whatever happened to the body, you can tell us.
I'm gonna go get some air.
And Maddie, you stand up and you walk past the waitresses in the diner and you
And I give them throw a couple dollars on the counter for my coffee and just head out the door just to get air.
I look back at the other two. I look back to the other two and I stand and follow Matt.
Claire, you can tell me. It's not going to bother me. Just tell me what happened to Luke.
Maddie, I'm sorry. It's awful.
Was because that's different. That's already. I mean, the other bodies. I mean, they weren't murdered in that way.
And Claire just looks at the table for a little while.
And you get a thought in your head, George, about the sheriff. He was the one who notified you, and that's why you called Luke. How did he notify you?
The sheriff, I think he he called me. Oh, email. Was it an email? I don't remember.
Facebook.
It was over Facebook. It was something kind of informal. Yeah. And I remember that now as I'm following Matt out of the diner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you follow Matt out the diner, and you get the idea that the sheriff is the one who brought you here. The sheriff contacted you out of all the people, and you know that Mrs. Lawrence would have reached out you to let you know about Luke's funeral.
Right.
So you sort of think, maybe there's a reason he notified you. Maybe there's a reason. And sitting 2 booths in front of you, 35 years ago, the 3 of you went and spoke to Paul Hall about these murders, and you recall the fact that he didn't think that it was the same murderer that did Jane, that did the kids, and you think that maybe there's a bigger reason he's had you back here.
Yeah. And I think all of that, and I make a note to talk to Tamara and Claire about that, but I think most important to me right now is making sure that we're all stable enough to go through with the rest of the case. And so I follow Matt outside, and I step up beside him. What's Matt doing?
And he's again vomiting, and the vomit is out of his mouth, so you can't quite hear it.
As opposed to the other vomit.
Well, you just can't hear him for some reason.
Oh, weird.
Oh, he's not muted. He lost his fucking voice. Oh, no.
Okay, so I step outside and... Hello?
No, you can't hear him. Go ahead.
No. So I step outside and I see that Matt is actually gone. he must have gone for a walk. So I kind of shrug and turn around, go back in, sit back at the table with Claire and Tam, and just ease into the conversation, whatever they're talking about.
And you see it's gotten tense, and you see between Tam and Claire there's sort of an uncomfortable air between the two, and you pick up your phone and you show the conversation that Paul sent you.
Yeah. Listen, Claire, he messaged me over Facebook. This is Paul Hall, and you know, I'm sure he's fine now, but we met with him in this exact diner many years ago when we were figuring out the Mr. Edwards case. And I'm surprised. Did you get a message, Tamara, as well?
I don't have Facebook.
Okay. Well, basically, he sent me this message, and he got us involved in the case many years ago. We were 11, 12-year-old kids at the time. And here he was including us, and now he's messaged us again. Now, I mean, we're a lot older now, but I don't know, it just struck me as odd.
What does it say?
What does it say exactly, Harlan?
He just said, it's a very short message, and it says, "Hi, George, it's Paul. I wanted you to be the first to know that Luke has passed. Come back to Harper's Hill, there's more to talk about."
Oh,
Hello.
welcome back.
And Matty walks back in, wiping the vomit from the side of his mouth. As he overhears George read out the message from Sheriff Paul Hall, the person who notified Georgie about Luke's murder.
Paul was involved. He was just a deputy at the time with the first cases. I think he would see connections we probably wouldn't be aware of. He seems like a good person to contact.
Yeah,
He's,
that's just good
the
reason
reason
to
I
start.
became an officer.
He's the reason you became an officer.
Absolutely. Again, his judgment, he was the one that actually, now that I'm actually an officer, I see what a risk that he took, placing the trust that he put in us, and the risk that he took to his own career in trusting us.
The four of you finish your meals, finish your coffee, and you head into your separate cars and head to the police station. And as sorry, go
I'd
ahead.
go with someone.
What's that?
I think I'd go with someone at
Okay.
this point. Maybe Tamara.
Leave your car at
You are welcome.
Okay. Tamara takes you, and you catch up as you drive over. And as you exit the cars and enter the police station, Claire being the first one inside, you see Claire standing next to Sheriff Paul Hall. And the three of you walk up, and he greets you like an old friend with a smile. "Maddie, Georgie, Tam, it's been a long time." And he shakes each of your hands.
You made sheriff.
I did. Well, in a town like this, you just stick with it long enough, and if you got half a brain, they'll get you up there.
Yeah.
It's true.
I see you met Claire here.
Oh, you know her?
She arrived yesterday. I showed her crime scene. She's one of those federales. And Matt, I heard you're part of the force in Chicago as well.
Yes.
Well, maybe we can all help each other, he says with more of a serious tone. Paul looks similar to how you saw him 35 years ago. He's still thin, but obviously he's much older now, going on 60 plus. He's got gray hair and a very thin beard, which has almost no color other than gray in it. His eyes are tired, but sharp and clever. There's a bit of blue behind them. And he wears his uniform well pressed, and you can tell he still takes pride in the work that he does here. And as he leads you back to his office, he shuts the door behind you and motions for you guys to sit down as he takes a comfortable chair. Takes
Take a quick look at the time.
It is almost 5 o'clock, so the sun is almost completely down in October, I suppose.
Claire kind of leans against the back of the chair. She's not super excited about sitting on this chair.
And he kind of nods to each of you and says, Luke's dead. I know you know that. Night before last, a few kids went out there drinking on Friday night. Or shit, 2 nights ago, I should say. Out to the house in the woods, whatever you want to call it. And they found him.
Where are the
What-
kids?
Well, they were questioned.
Do we
I mean,
know?
they're just local kids.
How long was he out there before someone found him?
Way we guess it, coroner says maybe, and he goes to open a file, and he pulls it up from his desk. Coroner predicts he died Friday night sometime. They found him around early morning Saturday, maybe 1, 2, 3 a.m. When the kids actually called it in. Officer Brady was on call. He went out around 5 o'clock Saturday morning. I got the call. When I came in 6, had my coffee. Anthony drove me out there. Coroner was already on site, and we saw it. But and he stands up and he walks towards the door and he shuts the blinds. Look, they all know about the marking. I don't know if you know this. Claire does, obviously, but Luke had something carved into him. The same something that was on the kids back in '82.
So it must be a copycat, because I mean, that person would have to be older now. There's no way it's the same person.
No.
Or persons, I guess.
Look, I don't know. When your friend Claire here showed up, I'm not the kind of person to turn away help. And
was there anything on Luke? Did he have anything, books, anything on him? I mean, what was he doing out there?
And he sort of sits back. Listen, you guys grew up here. The folks here mean well. They really do. But, half the staff out there are volunteers. I mean, we got Edna, who's 67, 5 years older than me. She can barely type, can't even use a computer. And she's cataloging evidence slower than molasses. But you know what? With manpower here, when a murder happens, we don't have the resources to make sure everything is in line. I have not said anything to anybody yet. But when Luke was found, there were some artifacts on him, personal belongings and such. He had a few books. I think he had a diary as well.
Where are these? Sheriff.
Matt, I'm going to need you to trust in an old friend here.
Absolutely.
The artifacts, including the diary, and I think he had 2 or 3 books on him, or at least that were in the clubhouse that were taken as evidence. They went missing last night. And I'm almost positive that it was no forced entry or anything like that. I'm pretty sure that someone misplaced them. They will show up. I am more than confident about that.
Who was here last night?
Officer Brady, like I said, found it. I came in the morning. Well, it would have been an overnighter, so it would have been Anthony. But look, he's a young kid. I've already questioned about it. He swears he dropped it off in the evidence locker, but truth be told, it's not the first time he's misplaced evidence.
Sheriff, that is a disgrace.
It is.
Is
All
it,
right.
do you have any objections to us just talking to Officer Brady, the coroner, or maybe Anthony?
No, of course not. But look, go easy on the kid. Anthony,
appreciate
he's young. He's me when I started out here. He's got a sharp mind. He's eager. He wants to do right.
And I'm sorry, Officer Brady was the first on scene?
Officer Brady was the first on scene. Yeah, he took the call last night.
Is he on shift right
Or
now?
the other night, I should say. Yeah, actually, he's just about to get off.
I would be wonderful to speak with him as well.
Of course, but look. And he kind of shares a glance between the four of you. There's a lot of pieces here, all right? Claire, I'm more than happy to have you working with us. But I think you know, the same way I do, with everybody here, that this needs to stay relatively contained. And it's not just me pulling the shots here.
What needs to stay contained?
Just-
That we're working on this?
Yes, absolutely. First and foremost, there's no civilians that should be working on any murder case ever. I mean, God, Matt and Claire, you guys have been in this long enough to know that this is... But I also think, and Claire, you're new here, so you're going to have to trust us on this. I think there's something more than just a... And he shakes his head, and as he does, there's a knock at the door. And the door opens without a hesitation. And in walks a man maybe in his early 50s. A handsome man with peppered black hair, clean shaven, a strong jaw, and blue eyes. And he sort of smiles as he says, "Hope I'm not interrupting anything." And the sheriff sort of sits back a bit. "No, of course not." Well, actually, it's probably a pretty good cue. This is, this is the mayor. This is Mayor Hodson. And he says with a bit of through gritted teeth. And the man walks sort of around and stands next to the sheriff behind the desk and takes a look at the four of you, smiling. "Well."
Do we recognize him from school?
Tam? Georgie?
I look at him in the eye and see if I can figure out who he is.
Maddie.
Mr. Hodson.
You can call
Was
me
he-
Chester Hodson, guys. And he
Oh,
stretches a hand out.
he's
he-
the photographer, right? The
No,
journalist?
no.
That guy was older.
Yeah.
This is one of the ones we did probably one of our cases for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't he the Chester? Wasn't he the guy that was making out with the girl?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Chester was the one that hired you to find out if
Find out.
his girlfriend was
Right,
cheating.
he was the
Very
emotional one.
He was the one that when you told, he was very, very upset.
Nice to meet you,
Nice to
Mayor
meet you.
Hodson.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Claire West,
Claire
FBI.
West. Chester Hodson. Nice to meet you.
Hello. Yeah.
And he walks over and he shuts the door behind him. Gentlemen, ladies, I should say. Wow. 35 years, it's got to be. You guys just up and left, didn't you?
At this point, I kind of take my phone out, kind of look at it, just scrolling through the recent messages, and just kind of put it on the floor for a bit.
Okay. So, I'm guessing that the sheriff here has let you know what's been going on.
It's horrible.
Yeah, about Luke.
It is.
And about your town, Mayor Hodson. I'm sorry, Hodson.
Hodson, Hodson.
It appears that you either have a serial killer that has yet to be apprehended after 35 years or else a copycat.
Well, that's kind of why I'm here. And I think the sheriff is going to agree with me on this, that whatever is going on here stays here.
Understand?
Luke Lawrence, for whatever needs to be published, was killed. Yes, it's tragic. It is unfair, unjust. I'll be at the funeral myself tomorrow. But at this point in time, there is nothing repetitive or cyclical or in any way different about his murder other than an unfortunate, very unfortunate circumstance.
Is there an election coming up?
It's not an election, Tam, and I appreciate you asking that. This is not my own self-interest. I'm not the bad mayor from Jaws trying to keep the people swimming. This is, at this point, not necessary for the public to know, for news reporters to know, and I think the more familiar people in this room would understand that.
I disagree, Mr. Mayor.
Do you?
Respectfully. If someone had stood in earlier, maybe in 1982, back when those first 5 murders happened, and alerted the public appropriately, maybe you could have prevented some deaths.
In 1982, the public was alerted to the deaths. The carvings had nothing to do with it. And all you're going to do is cause a panic. You're going to plummet our tourism industry at the peak. You're going to piss off a lot of angry parents on Halloween. And I'm going to be the one that has to take it up the ass.
Well, I'm sorry, but I don't feel too bad for you.
Claire West, was it?
That's correct.
And he looks over at the sheriff. Did you run her name? Did you call her? And he kind of looks up and looks back at you.
If you like to see my credentials, I have them handy.
I think credentials can be forged or duplicated. I think we might need to speak to a higher up.
I'll get you in touch with my higher up right away.
I think the number would be suffice. Do you have your phone on you?
Not currently, no.
Oh, it's not very good, is it? And the sheriff sort of looks up at Hodson. I think we all share Miss West's tenacity with what we're talking about, Mayor. And I don't think it would serve anybody any benefit to start making connections to a murder that happened 35 years ago, to a series of murders that happened 35 years ago. That's not to say we don't use all the resources at our disposal to make our own connections. But at this point, and he slowly shakes his head towards you, Claire, it's not going to do anyone any favors to throw the town into a panic. At the very least, if someone is out there 35 years killing again, it'll only cause them to hide.
Yes, sir.
And the mayor sort of looks from the sheriff back to you, Miss West. And to you, Tam and Georgie and Matt. And Matty, I heard you're a lawman yourself.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Out in Chicago. Just regular beat cop. Nothing fancy.
Well, Sheriff and I are close on this one. I'm out of your
If I
hair.
can be of any help, please.
And he walks out from behind the desk and says, look, I'm not the bad guy here. I want to catch whoever the fuck did this to Luke.
Chester, do you know of anything weird going on in this town? I mean, aside from the murder case, it seems that Luke might have been onto something. And you have connections.
If you come to me and you need something that I can do, I will do it for you. Especially if it means keeping the town safe. I have 3 daughters myself, the youngest 12. I'm not in the position to be... No, this is the mayor. I'm not in the position to be risking people's lives. People know about the murders, and they'll be told to stay inside. But we don't need to start making connections and scaring people that someone's come back from the dead 35 years later. Okay? And he slaps the sheriff on the shoulder. All right. If you need anything. And he lets himself out. And the sheriff just sort of sits up. For the record, I don't know which way is the better way to play it. I've seen both work, I've seen both fail. You alert a town to something like this, you bring a media storm down bigger than a fucking rock, than a fucking meteor on the town. You got news reporters all over the country trying to make a story out of something, and it clouds the case.
Paul, how do we know the teenagers aren't going to speak? I mean, it's going to get out. They must have seen details.
No. They weren't aware of the wounds.
You know what kids get up to in the woods at night. You know, a little drinking, a little whatever. They probably don't even remember half of what they saw. Besides, it was nightmarish.
Did none of them post it? None of them posted anything, social media wise?
Smart kids, at least. When they found the body, they called us right away, and he was found face down. He, as far as we can tell, crawled his way to the clubhouse from somewhere deeper in the woods, somewhere near the hills.
And I look at Tam, who had pointed out the blood smear. And I just note that.
Listen, we're gonna follow the case like a typical case. But Georgie, I contacted you because of what happened all those years ago. Because I know above anyone else I can trust you three. Claire, I'm not stupid. When you're doing it as long as I have, and you've dealt with federal agents, you know the first protocol they do is get you in touch with their superiors, speaking to somebody, telling them that you're meant to be here. I'm not going to push it. For whatever reason you're here, you're obviously trying to help, and that's all I need right now.
Appreciate it.
But that means between the four of you, you're on your own on this. Which means the dangers that come along with it. If you have any leads that you've gotten on your own, you follow them first. And you follow them quickly.
Do you have a copy of the file? Anything that we can take? Coroner's file? You know, Brady's reports, all of it, so that we can sift through and look through it.
I'll get documents to you. But again, it's going to have to be,
I know, just between us.
Right.
When we've got the funeral tomorrow, when can I come by and grab them?
Let's do tomorrow after the funeral. I'll bring him to the funeral.
Sounds good.
And he stands up and he opens the door.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hall. We're glad that you're working on this too, but well, who knows what's going to happen. I wish you the best, all right?
You too. And look, Luke was a good kid. Well, he's a man by now, but he hung around here for a few years. I'm sure you'll find out about what happened between when you guys left and what happened. It tore him up. But he didn't deserve whatever happened to him.
No, there's no way.
And he walks back to his desk and he says, if you need anything. And he sits back down and does some paperwork.
So I go open the door, let the other guys out if they go.
Mm-hmm.
Just like hold the door for them.
Okay.
Yep.
Very.
And I start to walk out, and then I open the door and go, forgot my phone. I'll catch up.
And the sheriff looks up as you enter back in the room. Matt?
Yeah, sorry. And I go to pick up my phone, do a quick look to see if they continued walking or not.
And they did.
All right.
Because it's clever.
Honestly, you didn't check for her superiors? You didn't call?
Maddie, there are very few people that come here looking to help. Very few people.
I'm just saying, between you and I, you know you are the reason I became a police officer. You know that.
I know.
And I got this feeling about her. She seems like she wants to help, but she's giving a lot of conflicting evidence right now, conflicting stories.
Matt, if you take my word for anything anymore, trust me when I say this. She means well, and she's going to help you. The same way Luke did. She's got a personal stake in this. All right?
What do you mean by that?
Just what I said. And he stands up, and he opens the door.
I shake his hand. Honestly, great to see you. Sorry it's taken me so long to get back here.
She says, you never need to apologize for leaving this place. Wish I did too. He shuts the door behind you softly. And you meet outside as you see Claire smoking a cigarette by the door, Tam sort of wafting it like away from her.
It's very important that we get as much information about Ackerman as we can. Now, I feel like this is the key to the whole puzzle because it's the only thing that he mentioned. Oh, hi there, Matt. It's the only thing that he mentioned in his call to you. He must have been investigating something.
Yeah. It's the only thing mentioned, and also that article that we found at the place. Right, Tam?
Sorry, I couldn't hear over the smoke.
And you read the article again, and the last passage particularly stands out. His home and possessions have been donated to the Maritime Museum of New England, located in Harper's Hill.
That's what I was just going to ask. Are we going to his actual house or to the...
I'd like to
museum?
see if the house is still there, Matt. It used to creep me out as a kid.
Do you each take
I remember our
your own
first
cars
visit,
again,
yeah.
or are you now starting to slowly work into one?
We might as well, for fuel efficiency, go into my car.
They start trusting again.
No, I think I'll drive my own. I'm sorry, I have a thing.
No, that's okay, Claire. No
Did
problem.
you say that you've been there before?
We've all been there before.
Long time ago.
Tell me about that.
We had mothballs. Let's go.
And Maddie brushes past, and Georgie sort of hesitantly follows suit. And Tam,
And
George, and Matt
No consequence.
head into their car. And Claire, you sort of flick your cigarette and head into your own. And you follow them towards Ackerman's house. Ackerman's house, which was once the shame of Harper's Hill, with its hole-ridden roof and discolored side panels, what was once the horror house of its street, like Georgie said, is now clean, presentable, almost a jewel of Harper's Hill. And as you exit your cars and walk towards the wrought iron gate, you see a white sign that reads Maritime Museum. Active tours every half hour.
Sorry, whose car did we take?
The three of you took
Like it to be mine.
your car, and Claire took George's car.
I'm driving both cars.
So you arrive in front of what is now the Maritime Museum.
Well, it's not as creepy as it used to be, eh, Tam?
It's worse.
Oh, what do you mean? White picket fence is actually white. The overgrown garden and lawn isn't actually overgrown.
There was something charming about Ackerman's house. I mean, here's part of him. It's kind of like building a house on a graveyard. That makes sense.
Do you still get the heebie-jeebies? I say as I begin opening the gate.
I liked Ackerman.
Well,
Open the door to-
yeah, we liked him. He was a nice guy in the end, but didn't change the fact that she was creepy.
Has this house stood empty for 35 years? Is there what are we getting the vibe off?
Oh, it's been turned into a museum.
No, it
Oh,
looks
I'm
like
sorry,
it's been,
museum.
yeah, it looks like it's been turned into a museum. And as you walk up the front porch, which is now refinished with new planks of wood, the door, which says open, swings easily on its hinges, not like the old one did, which cracked. And you enter to a front hallway in a soft blue painting. You see framed portraits in cleanly dusted and washed glass frames, and cabinets, presenting memorabilia on either side of the hallway. And in the front area, there's a small desk, and a girl sits there, maybe 18 years old, just sort of drawing on a piece of paper, and her eyes shoot up towards you as you enter. Oh, hi, welcome to the Maritime Museum.
Oh, thank you. Thanks a lot. It says you guys do tours every half hour?
Every half hour, yeah.
When's the next one?
And she looks at the clock, and it's now 5:42. And she says, "Oh well, the next one would be 6, but we close at 6:30. It'd be a bit tight. But you know what? Are you guys looking for a tour?"
No. Well, you know what? We actually are from around here.
Yes, we are.
And Tam steps forward, and she says, "Okay. Well, first off, it's $5 each." And she points to the sign, which is $5 entry.
And I take my wallet out and I put the $5 in for each of us. I say, "This one's on me. You guys get the next tour."
Thanks,
And
Tam.
she hands tiny little rip tickets. She says, "Well, look, you know what? If there's no other people here right now, I could always ask Deborah just to do a tour with you guys."
Sounds great.
Okay, perfect.
And
So-
I say, "Can we pay extra for all the details? Like, are there secret things you could tell us?"
Yeah,
Give
is this
me
place haunted?
Give me a charm roll,
Okay.
Tam. See, here's where I disagree. Mark said an 18-year-old would be messing with her phone. No. And you know what's funny? Because I thought about that. I was kind of like, would she be on her phone? And I was like, nah. Because you know what? Not all people are shitty. I pictured this town like I pictured this town like Gilmore Girls, and like if this was Gilmore Girls, there would be a girl sitting there, you know, just like doing something else, because that small town mentality like seeps through.
If this was Gilmore Girls,
I
they
would
wouldn't
watch
have been on
it.
their phones because they didn't have good phones back then.
No, did you not see the new season of Gilmore Girls? They didn't. They weren't on their phones all
No,
the time.
in fact,
We are
I
not
don't know
talking
which one
nearly fast enough.
I was gonna say
Yeah, we need
Our
to.
dialogue,
a lot better.
Did you roll your?
So
I
do you
was
want to go on a tour?
successful.
Let's go on a tour.
I
I
was
think we should
charming.
go on a tour. The tour is a great idea. Let's go
How
on a
would we
tour.
go on a tour though?
No, they really don't talk that
the
fast.
thing about tours, why do they call them tours? Tour de France?
So you okay? So you succeed,
I did.
and she
I
kind of
smile
says,
at her and I say, I'm sure
"You're lucky.
you
You
know
just skipped a
lot."
whole bunch of nonsense." So she kind of says, "Well, actually, it's not part of the tour, but the guy who used to own this house, when he died, he donated it to the Maritime Museum, but they didn't get rid of it. They just moved it all to the basement. So it's pretty neat. Every once in a while, when I need to get more supplies like toilet paper or anything like that for the bathroom upstairs, going down there next to the stacks of books are crazy. This guy was like a hoarder or something, but not garbage. It was just books. It's just non-stop books to the ceiling. It's really cool."
Well, I think that would be great. I mean, that sounds like it's an enriched tour, guys. Don't you think? Enriched.
Absolutely.
Look, that's up to Deborah. And as she's saying that, an older woman, maybe 55, is walking down the steps. Older and a woman, and she kind of hits the bottom of the step and says, "Hi, is this for another tour at 6? We close at 6:30."
Yes, but this fine young lady said that, you might be willing to give us a tour.
And I show her the ticket.
And Deborah sort of looks at Chrissy and she says, "Okay, well, why not? I mean, if it's only you guys." And she says, "Sure. Okay. Well, let's start." And she begins walking into the.
As we're going down the hallway, I realize where I got the idea for all the molding in my cabin was from this visit at Ackerman's as the rich wood.
Like black
and I
mold?
run my hand along the
was
chair
gonna say.
rail as we're walking down the hallways.
We're actually novice ghost hunters and looking for anything that's like especially spooky, or you know what I mean? Like anything
I'm a
that's
little
giving
bit
off,
more
like,
intermediate
weird-
as far as ghost hunting is concerned.
Yeah, she's she's teaching us how to, and I'm just hoping that if there are any like rooms where like the lights go on and off, or if there's like
Give
The
me.
young lady at the desk said something about it.
That's an interesting
collection
Hail
of
Mary. That's
books.
an interesting pass. Let's see. Roll something. Let's see if she
What
buys
do you
it.
want me to roll?
I
I mean, I'm
know.
gonna roll percentile dice, but
Yeah, you roll what? Well, hey, this is how it works. You justify
talk?
it. Sure. Fast talk.
I did a bad
Or
job.
persuasion.
Disguise.
No. 81. I don't think any of your stats are 81. No, she's not
Nope.
gonna buy it. So you say this to her, but you kind of get the impression pretty quickly, being a historian and whatnot, that she's more of a skeptic than anything, and she's
Can I push it?
sure.
I'm gonna
She's
say
gonna punch you in the face if she doesn't.
Get out!
I
I'm
said
gonna say-
no. Wow.
it is
These
my
people don't
birthday.
even like the Maritime.
No, you do it. Push it.
It is my birthday after all.
Oh,
Oh, God,
fuck.
it's a 98.
Oh.
It's your birthday?
No,
Not in real life, but I mean, is it Claire's birthday?
no.
Well, then there you go. So she turns to you, and she takes a bit of snark from what you said, because she kind of thinks you're making fun of her. She goes, "Look, what I did when I was younger was nothing." No, she just says, "Listen, if you guys are here to just be stupid and talk about ghosts, this isn't a haunted house. This is a museum. This is a place that is dedicated. The owner of this house dedicated to the Maritime Museum, okay? If you guys aren't serious about this, then there's no need."
Okay, that's enough. We need to see what we need to
Is that a
see.
picture of your daughter?
Yeah, that's what I had.
We
So
mean
you-
no disrespect.
So you're going to flash your badge? Give me a law roll.
Absolutely.
Give me a law roll.
I was actually looking forward to the
I
tour.
was gonna say I might actually do it. What do I got? Law, or maybe intimidate.
I'm
I'll go law.
going to say
What
law,
about
because you're not intimidating
firearms?
her. Yeah.
All right.
It's gonna be a lot of failed rolls back to back. I can already tell.
48. So I got it.
Did you?
I did. My
Okay.
law is 50.
So she kind of says, "Oh, okay. Well, what do you want?"
Right now we are just looking for the full tour. Honestly, we are investigating a case. We are just looking to find out what we can find out.
Just read your
We
call.
used to. I kind of tack on to Matt, and George is getting kind of uncomfortable. He gets uncomfortable when he sees badges being used.
We're all police officers, man.
Yeah, right.
No, and I say, we all used to live in this town, and we remembered this place, and we did actually come for the tour too. But really, we remembered old Ackerman. We remembered what this place used to look like. We've actually been inside. We met Ackerman, the older guy of this place, and so we just wanted to come back and see what it's like now.
Georgie, give me a charm,
Okay.
because I know you got it out the wazoo.
Look at those glasses. It's all
does?
charm.
My God,
They're not real.
I would lick the lenses off your face.
51 under 85.
That's good. Okay, so it's not hard, but it's definitely a success. Between your law roll and your charm, she kind of looks between the three of you. Now three of you, or four of you, three of you made a pitch, and she kind of just looks at Tam. And Tam, you make an expression, which is... and she kind of just rolls her eyes. Look, fine, we close in half an hour. And she walks...
I'll tell you what.
out.
Why don't you leave us the keys?
Oh, that's what she says. She
Give me your
goes,
address. Yeah.
no. She's not going to leave you the keys, but she goes, look, we close in half an hour. Do whatever you want to do. Just don't, if you know, there's only one way in and out. You're not stealing anything. And she walks towards the front, and she goes back upstairs to whatever she was doing. And, yeah, you sort of have your run of the place.
Truth is, we are architects.
I know.
All right, let's investigate everything.
So,
Well, let's start in the basement.
well, I was going to say, you can
Where
already
Chrissy-
tell. You can tell for time constraints that the entire floor and upper floor, already from looking at it, have been completely remodeled, remolded, new paint, new, like, walls have been knocked down. You can tell
And if we've
everything's-
learned anything from Call of Cthulhu, it's in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There's a bed with a woman in a harness, sex harness, and there's a baster.
All right.
Anyway, so yeah, you do remember where the basement door was. Obviously, you didn't go down there, but you have been here 35 years ago. So tell me what happens.
Well, we go to the door, and I test it.
And it is unlocked.
Perfect.
So you agree to head down there. The fast
Do you guys
fading.
remember the name of the book he had last time we visited him? He pulled out some books. I'm sure of it.
Oh yeah, 35 years ago.
Yeah.
You remember the name of a book some guy pulled out once?
I don't know. Maybe someone
Did
does.
have one. Well, I remember looking over
It was
his
a
shoulder.
pretty traumatic event, that whole situation. I'm sure we...
I don't know. Let me think. Does my inner Rin, just shouting out to Rin right now, have any notes on what books we may have read?
Put it this way: you remember when you first met him? That
It's a
open-
very small backwards part of the psyche, the Rin.
Yeah, the Rin. You remember that he was writing in a diary. Amongst other books, you noticed that he was someone that took a lot of notes.
Pull out my flashlight from my flashlight holster,
There-
and
And I turn on the light switch.
And for the first time, Claire is humbled.
oh shit! Thank you.
For
Yeah.
the first time.
what
And
we do.
you begin descending the stairs. A single light bulb hangs above the open stairs as you begin walking down. And immediately the smell of damp books, their ancient pages, the leather binding, it invades your senses as you head down to the almost humid cellar. And you're thrust back to the 80s when you first came here. A sense of nostalgia washing over the three of you. And you remember walking into Ackerman's house the first time, walking through a maze of books stacked ceiling high, and how it was all so grandiose, and it made you feel small but safe in a way as well. The book bindings almost a blanket in themselves. And you feel different now. As you enter the cellar, or sorry, the basement, it's the same books. They don't even look that much more aged or weathered, but it feels colder now. It feels like you're seeing it through a lens, like you've stepped back. And maybe it's because of your age, or maybe it's because of your experiences, but for whatever reason, you're moving through the stacks of books, the labyrinth-like layout, with a more stern, unforgiving motivation. And as you make your way to the bottom of the steps and begin moving around the stacks of books, you do see sort of the more, I guess, interesting boxes. But again, they're only amongst other piles of unlabeled books.
So I'm gonna try an occult roll, and just see if I can pick out the ones that looked familiar.
Okay.
And I got the corner of a book in the eye.
Oh fuck! What'd you roll? One.
93.
Okay, so yeah, no, you
That was my good eye too.
you piss on a book actually. It's so pissed off, you just like fuck this. No, you can't. You're not too sure. Again, it's such a sea of books. Nothing necessarily. There's a lot of labels.
Can I push it? Because how bad can it get?
You do really want to find out? I'll start a fucking fire down there.
Yeah.
I want to,
No.
while he's doing this, I want to actually run my hands along the spines of the book, and I want to speak to myself and say, Ackerman, which one are we supposed to find? And I want to
God, I love
feel
it.
the one,
Do it.
feel the one that kind of feels like it's been worn the most.
Fucking do it. What are you gonna roll?
I don't know. I think either luck or something more
Do you have
interesting.
magic? Do you have magic?
Yeah, I do.
What's your magic? 'Cause you
Is
just
it?
said
It's
your
power, right?
shit. Sure.
So 80.
Yeah, let's do power. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I just grab a book and I pull it out and I say,
century.
I think Ackerman wants us to have this one. And I kind of smile and hand it off to Georgie.
What did you roll?
I succeeded, 26.
26.
Nice.
Is that an extreme?
Wow.
Or,
That's a hard success for sure.
fuck you.
So I just
Tam,
grab
you
a book.
run your hand amongst the stacks of books as the other three sort of go about their more clinical ways. And I think it's important to accent this. Claire, how did you try to search?
I think she sheepishly puts away her flashlight, and she's like halfway looking at the books, but also kind of watching the three of them go around in this basement, because she knows that they've been here before, so she wants to kind of suss out how familiar they are with this surrounding.
Okay, perfect. Georgie, how did you go about trying to search for the books?
I've taken out my phone and I'm doing a video as I'm going down, looking at all of the spines, just in case we need to watch it later. But
Okay.
and I do notice Tam out of the corner of my eye, just going around like.
Yeah, you do. And
Yeah,
and
I think she hasn't changed a bit.
And Maddie, you walk into a stack of books.
I was gonna say, but as I turn and I see Tam doing this, it's the first time in probably 35 years that I feel some peace.
Yeah, and like a kid again, maybe. But most importantly, out of you, Claire, you being already analytical and trying to look at the others, you see Tam running her hand across the books, and with your, I don't think I'm misspeaking to say callous nature, you sort of look at her with a bit of what, disdain, maybe?
Just kind of confusion. Like, what is that gonna do?
So a bit of and you see her run her hand, and she stops on a book. And while all three are looking, Claire, you see something between her fingertips and the book. And later you question it. But in the moment, you have absolute certainty that you see what looks to be the smallest spark of purple electricity between the fingers and the cover of the book, or the spine of the book, I should say. And Tam, you feel something as you cross this book. It looks no different than the others, perhaps a little more worn, a little more bent. And as you put your other hand up and slide it out, you flip it open to see Ackerman's diary. It is dated 1985, or 1982, I should say. And it is only about, the 5 last pages seem of particular impotence.
I also know that this isn't really my thing, and I know it's Georgie's thing, so I actually want to hand it to him. I said, Georgie, I think Ackerman wants us to have this one. And I flip to the pages and I say, it looks interesting.
And Claire, as you watch this, what do you think?
I'm thinking about what else I know about Ackerman, and how to best broach a question that's been on my mind for a little while without scaring these people.
Okay. And you flip to the first page, Georgie. And
Well, yeah, I take it from Tam, and I say, "You're fantastic," and I begin flipping through. Yeah.
And just for expediency, I will read the last 5 entries. February 20th, 1982. A young man came by today. I believe him to be friends with the children who came to me back in January. He knocked on my door and asked to speak with me about something of great importance. Believe me, boy, there's nothing of great importance around here, not anymore. February 28th, 1982. Day after day, Luke continues to show up. There's little I can do to deter him from visiting, so I've decided to make a day of it. We've had lunch today in the kitchen. He's a remarkable young spirit. I'm ashamed to say that I was unaware that it was he who lost his sister to that murderer, Thomas Edwards, last month. It pains me to learn that his young friends, despite the fact that they appeared so close, have left Harper's Hill with their families. Though I don't blame the parents for leaving all this behind them. It pains me to learn that his young friends... Oh, right. March 10th, 1982. Luke and I have had many, many long afternoons. He's wise beyond his years, and while at first I was hesitant to tell him of my exploits in Arkham, dealing with all I had dealt with, he seemed eager, nay, excited to hear them. He continues to press about what Sarah and I did back in January. I'm hesitant to tell him, but I feel he's earned it by spending his weekends with this old bag of bones. March 21st, 1982. Luke is becoming a friend. As absurd as the age difference may be, he's earned my trust. And so I've told him about the shield Sarah and I have placed around Harper's Hill. When I showed him the tomes and texts, he eagerly began rifling through them. He reminds me of myself when I was younger, but more eager, more excited. March 24th, 1982. I've begun lending Luke books. He's welcome to take them as he pleases. He's particularly interested in the tomes on spellcraft. We've debated with spirit the implications of Harper's Hill and the shield which surrounds it, but I feel that Sarah and I made the right call. Luke is young. He'll agree in time. I trust him, and I've never been wrong about who to trust. March 25th, 1982, the last entry. I asked Luke not to come today. I'm feeling weaker as of late. I didn't have the heart to tell him about my cancer. He's already lost so much. Who knows? Maybe he'll be sick of me by the time I finally kick the bucket. I'm sure I have a little while left, at least. Enough to maybe teach him exactly what we shielded this town from back in January. The last page of the diary doesn't necessarily have writing on it. It's a series of scratches and scribbles. You can make out the words yes, no, You cannot. The red book, black binding, 25, the boogeyman, and a series of scratches that sort of frame the page in a bizarre light. And that's all the diary has.
And I make sure to take pictures of all the pages so that we have it for later.
I start looking for a red book with black binding, and I look. I say, "There's no more pages. Like anything about January in there?"
Didn't see anything.
You pour through the books over the next 25 minutes, and despite your many attempts to continue doing what you did, Tam, filming Georgie, Maddie bumping into things, and Claire now turning back trying to look through the books, despite all your best efforts, you don't find anything.
Okay, well, has Deborah come down to...
Yes, and you hear a knock at the top. All right, closing time, guys.
All right, coming. Well, that's something.
Yeah, I mean, did someone pocket that book, or did you just take photos of it?
I didn't want to take anything from here, but yeah, I've got pictures. I can forward them to you. You have an email?
Yes, please. And I put my address in your phone.
Perfect.
What's your address?
And I look at Claire, and I'm like, the phone that you didn't have on you at the police station?
No, she put it into mine, I thought.
That phone that you didn't have?
She does check her phone to like check something. As you guys head up and you start walking out of the front, you actually stop in Ackerman's sort of front yard as Chrissy locks the door and starts walking past you.
Claire, seriously, cut the fucking shit. Who are you? I'm not disagreeing that you're not here to help. I'm fine with that. But who the hell are you?
Claire.
You haven't been like straight to us from the beginning.
Claire takes out a cigarette and she grabs her lighter and she's like trying to light it and it's not going because she's like shaking.
Let me help you with that. And I grab the cigarette and throw it out again.
And Maddie, you see an anger within Maddie, Georgie, and Tam that you haven't seen in many years, and he starts to pace back and forth on the front lawn.
Like seriously, like cut the shit. Who are you?
Listen to me.
What do you know? What do we need to know?
You listen to me, please.
Are you about to tell us the truth or more bullshit?
Well, I would like to if you just give me a fucking second.
Fine.
I've been here since yesterday, not this morning. Maybe you didn't catch that when the sheriff mentioned it. I don't know how good of a police officer you actually are.
I actually was listening, yes. That's
Great.
how I also knew that you didn't have your phone on you.
Wonderful. I also grew up here in Harper's Hill. Yeah, so I am personally invested in this case, and I do care about finding out what happened here.
Whoa. You grew up here? I don't remember a Claire West.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter right now.
What's your real name, Claire?
And you see a hesitancy behind her, and this very tough, almost, again, callous exterior of Claire, or whoever she claims to be. You can see her in the darkness, and she's wavering a bit, almost shaking.
Claire, who are you?
What happened on the riverbank?
Who are you?
And as she mentions
I'm not going to
Riverbank,
answer any more of your questions until you get straight with us.
and as she mentions Riverbank, Tam, you take a step forward.
You have no right to ask that. You weren't there. You don't know.
I'm trying to get answers, and I know that something happened.
We want one answer right now, Claire. Who the hell are you?
My name is Marie Schultz.
And the three of you stop. The name Schultz, something about it rings. And for a second, you search each other's faces looking for someone's realization, and then your eyes fall upon Georgie. You recognize Schultz, but not Mary Schultz, not Marie Schultz, I should say.
Schultz.
In 19...
And I understand that you guys have questions, but I need to...
One second. Schultz.
In 1982, there were 5 victims that died at the hands of an unknown killer. The last, sixth, being Jane Lawrence, who you know was killed by Thomas Edwards. Of the other 5 victims, there was a Schultz, a Sarah Schultz.
Sarah. Sarah, you're Sarah's sister.
Yeah.
Does she react at all? I look to see if Marie reacts at all. when I
Yeah,
say her name.
she's crying a little bit.
Yeah, Sarah had a little sister, I guess. I remember reading in one of the reports.
I'm her
Oh.
older sister by 3 years.
An older sister.
Yeah,
I got
that's
it wrong.
right. No, it's okay. I mean, there are a lot of children dying back then, so I don't blame you.
Well, Maddie, I don't know how she could make this shit up.
How do you know about the riverbed?
Well, that's a great question. And I think that if maybe you trusted me, be something
Sarah? I thought it was Claire a second ago. Why should I trust you?
It's Marie.
Marie, Sarah was my sister, but that's fine. No, I mean, I know pseudonyms are tricky. She's like looking at her hands, like fucking around with her lighter. She doesn't really want to look at any of you. She's like, so that evidence that that the sheriff was talking about, we can go back to the motel and look at that if you want.
We don't need to go back to a motel. We can.
And
all
as
go
she
back
says
to my
those words,
place.
they ring true. The evidence that the sheriff said had been misplaced. And Maddie, it dawns on you all of a sudden.
Yeah, I caught that.
I learned about the riverbank because I have Luke's journal.
All right, Claire. Or Mary.
It's Marie, but
Marie.
I mean,
I of anyone, like, that's why I go by Matt Jacobs now. I wanted to leave as much of this behind as possible. Like, I get it. I just wish you had been straight with us from the beginning.
I didn't know if I could trust you. I came to town thinking that you kids had been, I don't know, involved in some way. Like, your names are all over these case files, and then you fucking leave town. I don't know who you are, how you're involved, and then this Luke dies again the same way, and you're all in town again.
And you see Marie again for the sort of the first time in the true light as the darkness is cut by the street lamps which flick on. And you see that through her voice, her wavering voice, tears are streaming down her face. And her show of force, her forceful nature to avenge her sister, to find out exactly what you guys had in connection with this and what happened 35 years ago. It's come down crashing upon her like a ton of bricks as the 4 of you stand in front of Ackerman's yard.
Marie, like you, we want to follow the symbol. We want to get to the real root of the issue. We want to find what really happened here.
Luke would have always said that we can do anything if we work together.
He did say that.
He sounds like a nice boy.
He was the best.
He was right most of the time, Tam. I mean, what we accomplished when we were kids was no small feat.
I think maybe Luke wanted us to work together, and I don't think we gotta stop. We gotta be honest, Marie, and I think those books and those journals of Luke's, I think they have answers we're looking for.
I think so too.
You leave Ackerman's front yard and head towards the Red Sparrow Motel. Marie leading the way, Marie Schultz, for the first time. The Red Sparrow Motel sits on the north end of Harper's Hill. The red light from the neon sign shines brightly in the cold autumn night, like a sinister beacon guiding home. As you approach, you pull in front of your room, and you see the door to the room softly swing with the breeze. Frantically, you exit the car. Marie taking the lead, running inside, past the hastily searched room, past the tipped chairs and broken glass, straight to the safe in the closet. The safe that held Luke's diary and Ackerman's books. The safe which sits open and empty, pried with force. As Marie sits on the floor in front of the open safe, the three of you enter and hear the soft click of the police scanner on her nightstand turn on. "Paul?" says the voice. "Yeah?" You hear the voice of Sheriff Paul Hall answer. "There's been another murder." And we're going to end there. That was Grimm Chapter 4. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Wednesday night. This was such a blast. Let's give another round of applause to our fantastic cast. It is such a pleasure to be able to do this with you guys and for you guys on a weekly basis. So thank you guys for hanging out, chatting, and being absolutely hilarious throughout the entire game. I hope you enjoyed this. This was definitely one of my favorite episodes I think we've ever done. More rounds of applause. But of course, the game isn't over until we reward end game XP. And I'm thinking that if we're putting our heads together, there was one person in the chat that seemed to be quite interesting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, my vote was for our buddy Kellen.
Yeah.
He had the brilliant idea of going to check on Ackerman, and he mentioned the librarian Sarah. So I don't know.
I totally agree. I think Kellen hit it out of the park. Zia was a close second, but you know what? I think Kellen was on top of his game tonight. So if we're all in agreement,
I agree.
Let's do it. Kellen.
And Michael's got his hands up. So, Kellen, you win the endgame XP. Well done, buddy. Fantastic game. Fantastic job, guys. You did wonderfully. You just did
Well, thank you, Harlan. You did wonderfully.
I didn't do anything.
Good
As
start.
always.
No, fantastic job. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you, the community, for hanging out and chatting along and giving us such a great time to do this. We're going to be back next Wednesday with Chapter 5. Let me figure out the title. With Grimm Chapter 5, The Girl I Left Behind Me. So come back next Wednesday, 8 o'clock, and we're going to see where this crazy story goes. Thank you so much for hanging out. You have a fantastic night and a fantastic weekend. And as my good friend Chris always likes to say,
We'll see you around the table.
we will see you around the table, guys. Good night.